Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to call this general committee meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. I can confirm we do have quorum. However, Councillor Cluche has sent his regrets. And with that, Councillor Schumacher, would you mind reading the land acknowledgement statement, please?
I don't mind at all. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabeg under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1860 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations. Miigwech.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none, we will go directly to deputations. And in fact, we do have one today. We are joined by Jeff Sotheby and Kelly Haywood, both from the Huntsville Municipal Accommodation Tax Association. And they're both here to provide their annual update. Welcome, you two. And a gorgeous day it is. Just a nice way to start. Yeah, I know, exactly. Exactly.
No? What do you have to do? There we go. Am I on? Okay. All right. Good morning, Huntsville. How's everybody doing? Thank you for having us here today. I'm Jeff Sotheby, Chair of the Hamada and Explore Huntsville Board. And I'm here with Kelly today, our Executive Director, to share with you our adventures to date and, of course, what the future looks like moving forward. But before I hand this over to Kelly, I would like to share a few thoughts about our destination development projects. The last time we talked a lot about it, and I just want to highlight a few things. So first, Sandhill and the Forest of Lights. Did everybody get out this winter to see what was going on out there? Oh, round of applause. So, simply the best word to describe it is magical. And I just want to thank Melissa and Tim of Sandhill, obviously, and Kelly and her team for pulling this all together because they brought this project to life, and what a project it is. So Kelly and to Tim and Melissa, thank you very much. There we go. All right. Secondly, speaking of magical experiences, did everyone drive down the main street of Huntsville this winter? And we have Rachel right behind us. I just wanted to thank Rachel and the BIA showing us what Huntsville can be, which is simply magical. So Rachel and the BIA, thank you very much. Okay. And I just want to point out to our partners, the Festival of the Arts, the Chamber, and the BIA, we have great partners. You look around town, there's live music and activities happening everywhere. And, we surround ourselves in our town with these partners that do all the activations within Huntsville. So to our partners, the Festival of the Arts, the Chamber, and the BIA, thank you very much. To Kelly and her team and our board, I just wanted to say thank you for the vision in directing our town and guiding us to success. So Kelly and to our board members, I wanted to thank them all. And I think, the vision that goes around our board and through our team with Kelly and her team, I think it's moving us forward in the right direction. So thank you very much. Okay. And of course, last but not least, I just wanted to thank everyone at the town, our mayor, our councilors, and of course, all the staff members. A few years ago, going back in history, we had a vision of what we could share together. And I think now we're at the point where we can say our little town is becoming a big little town within the world of hospitality. So thank you very much. Okay, with that being said, I think our future looks pretty bright. I'll hand this off to Kelly, and it's your show.
Thank you. Jeff always leaves me so much time. Um, no, thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure working with Jeff and our board. And just to reiterate what Jeff said, the team with the municipality has really never been better. We have such an incredible working relationship. We have Lauren McDermott at our board all the time, and she is such a phenomenal resource, and we're so grateful with her leadership from Riva and Denise, and then we have so many to mention, but I just really want to thank the team with the town. It's incredible. So, pardon me, we have really worked really hard this year on developing our new strategic plan, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. Jeff touched on all the great stuff. But just looking at this slide, destination development, of course, is the piece where we're actually creating assets and developing things in our community that have longevity, that have and in particular, we're focusing on winter, shoulder season, almost entirely. You'll notice that theme. And the reason we're doing that is we're trying to flatten the curve, move the needle so that, it's an even playing field, obviously, for staffing, housing, all of the things to be more sustainable. So I think it's a really great direction and feedback that we received from our stakeholders, and we worked really hard with our board on. So that is a common theme you'll see in the next few years, hopefully. Destination management, of course, is what we will be doing to continue to maintain the assets that we've developed and keep them going. So I'll talk a little bit about more on that. Destination marketing and governance are other pillars. So our website, I'm going to talk about it just a little bit because this year you're going to see a lot more explorehuntsville.ca out and about. We really want to make sure that our frontline staff and that people at home know that explorehuntsville.ca is the place to go to get all of the information you need about things to do, where to stay, where to eat, that sort of thing, so that there's one common message. Please have a look at it. If you have any feedback, if you think we're missing anything, anyone you're talking to, tell them to make sure that they've connected with us so that we can ensure that there's as much information as possible. So that is important, and it is still very, all of our social media points to it, of course. So our digital marketing impact is incredible. Huge thanks to our partnership with Muskoka Tourism, Destination Ontario, and Explorers Edge. Torrin Sotheby on our team is a mastermind at working really hard with these groups, also to help develop content. Any stories you hear too, little ones, doesn't matter where or what business, what organization, if there's a story to tell, we are going to be interested to help these organizations tell the story. Beyond digital, you're going to see some new print. You'll see that print is back. There's a lot more tactile print interest. I just came back from a vacation on the West Coast, and I collected like arms full of tactile. There's maps, guides. People are really gravitating to tactile again, which I think is great. And it's an opportunity for us to really make sure it's in front of our visitors. So certainly we have, maps and guides, branded assets, stickers, that sort of thing. But when, at Forest of Light, for example, or their fall festival, or it doesn't matter what, we're working with businesses. Deerhurst Resort is another one where they're giving their guests information about our area. When they're leaving whatever Forest of Light, as Jeff spoke about it, 24,000 plus tickets were sold, of which 60% of the visitors were from outside Muskoka, and definitely had, there was a feeling, and we got a lot of feedback from our accommodators on the impact that it had. The 55 plus Winter Games, you all know about. Proud to announce that we're looking at a roughly $90,000 legacy, which will be reinvested in local sport, and particular focus on senior local sport, and of course senior winter local sport. So you'll see applications coming out for that in mid-July. A couple of the campaigns that I'm about to show you again are targeted as there are things to do. You'll see, for example, the Home of the Stars, 163 attendees in October and November. Not a huge amount of physical people here, but a massive campaign with massive impressions. And we're really trying to just move the needle slowly but organically around how important it is and how beautiful it is to come here in the late fall and experience our dark sky and the beautiful stars that we have. Same with birding in Muskoka. So you'll notice both of these campaigns are low impact on the environment. They're really aligned with our brand, nature, our area, and they're very, very popular. And led by really amazing local guides. Maple is still amazing. The BIA and the Chamber are knocking it out of the park with all of the festivals that they put on. The Golden Maple ticket, we're sort of taking it a bit further and building contesting and that sort of thing. Fire vs. Defrost is happening again this year. This is something that we created at Forest of Light, another event that I think is fantastic to keep going. The downtown light canopies, I'll just briefly note, the rink downtown, there's, and the lights, I think we're due to sort of talk to council about how well that light canopy in River Mill's working. We kind of made a promise that we'd come back and discuss that. So it'll end up punting back to staff, no doubt. But I can tell you that it's been very, very well received. I think there was some concern in early spring about the grass, but I think everybody's grass kind of looked like that. And if you look at it today, it looks fantastic. So kudos to the Chamber and the BIA for working so hard to keep that park up. But I think it's working really well. Outside of that, we focused on meetings and conventions. We're looking at continuing developing great partnership opportunities with the Festival of the Arts, the Chamber, and the BIA, who are phenomenal community partners and work so incredibly hard for this community. It's outstanding. And then finally, a quick list of the organizations who we did support this year. We're focusing all of our energy on the sport legacy, but again, in the following fiscal, I think you'll see another opportunity for us to support local organizations. Finally, proud to be contributing with the board towards the Huntsville Hospital Foundation, and this year new is MindAid, so both really important frontline staff, health in our community, of course. Looking ahead, Jeff spoke briefly about we just completed our business and marketing plan. We will continue, as I indicated, on flattening the season for winter and shoulder season, and building regional marketing partnerships, which is really important to us. So I'm out of time, but I really want to thank you for listening to us today.
You really hurried along there, Kelly.
Sorry.
I have to say, I would have given you more time,
Thanks.
just saying. I absolutely
I've seen
would
your
have.
agenda.
I know.
I don't want to be responsible.
So therefore, we're appreciative.
Yeah.
Before I turn it over to council, I'd be remiss if I didn't actually echo what you just said in your earlier statements, Jeff, about phenomenal partnerships. And I know that I speak for all of council when I say we believe our partnership with HMATA and BIA and the Chamber as phenomenal as well. And we're unbelievably appreciative of all of the good work that you guys are doing. I looked at the slide deck last night and it blows my mind. I think that over the last 4 years or whatever it is, 3 years, it's just, I feel like it's ratcheted up to the direction where people wanted to go, and now we're there. And we're attracting, when I see digital information like 50 million, whatever, I don't even know what that means.
I know, it's crazy.
But I think it's probably good.
It's good.
Right? It's not so bad.
No.
But from my perspective, the most important thing to me is the phenomenal working relationship that we have with you guys. And so for that, thank you.
Thank you.
And the last thing I wanted to say too, I love the whole Dark Sky program because it works together with, this was the year of the final implementation of our Dark Sky friendly bylaw.
Yeah.
And so it's just, again, really nice to see them working hand in hand. And I hope that this, becomes the community to come and do that.
Yeah,
That
for
would
sure.
be brilliant. Okay, so with that, Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think when you talk about the partnerships, I think we know it at the table, but the people in the town need to know the connections with all you guys. It starts with our EDs. We have EDs in all four of those. I talk about Festival, BIA, Chamber, and HMATA with a ton of vision and a ton of drive. But you guys work on your relationships every day. It's amazing. But the extra work they do, I mean, what Rachel put into that light stuff, I mean, everyone complains about the grass in Rivermill. What they don't know is Hallie's out there on a Sunday on her own time seeding it herself because Chamber only has so much budget. Like, this is what they do. And they do care about the natural environment of the town, the lighting and all that stuff. So when something comes, it's always through the lens of Kelly and Rachel and the gang of not being intrusive to the public. It's amazing. But also it comes down to what I've learned on the board for the last 4 years. The little things we see come through, and we're seeing them today, some of the user group requests, even little things like disc golf and everything else, they have a massive impact on the smaller accommodators. Not all the accommodators are lucky enough like Deerhurst to have massive amenities. So the little guys, every time they have a new thing added, they get people at the front desk asking, what can we do? What can we do? So when we approve some of these things, it's bigger than just local users using it. And we've seen the impact at the table. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah, it's true. And thank you for all your hard work on our board, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, and thank you both very much for coming and for all the work that you do. I think the one thing, and I don't want to reiterate what the mayor has said because I think what you're doing is absolutely fabulous. The one thing that I hear when I'm out there just talking to people is what you mentioned, Kelly, about where to go when they want to find things. Like what's going on? There's no newspaper anymore. So I always say, check out Explore Huntsville, but I don't think the message is getting out to even just our locals, right? So I think you're aware of that.
Yep.
It's something that without having the print media now, some people are finding they don't know where to go. So there are other websites out there, but I constantly say go to Explore Huntsville because there's lots of information there, but we just have to get that word out. And I know you're working on that, but that's the message that I get out there. Where do I find what's going on?
No, it's so true. And we will have, postcards, and we're doing a coaster campaign. So every restaurant has coasters with information and QR codes on how to get back to our website. So you're going to see a lot more of that out and about this season. Yeah. So thank you.
I think it's interesting, your comment about we're returning to print and brochures and all of that. I find that, I kind of get it, but
Yeah,
I'm old,
me
so,
too.
but there you go. Councillor Schumann.
Some people just like that tangible thing. And I know when I was helping out at the booth there for National Indigenous Peoples Day, people were ripping off those maps
Yeah.
and they want them up at their cottages. But no, I was going to say to echo Councillor Renwick, I mean, you do see on our What's Happening Huntsville and the social media posts, and, especially you've got like maybe single moms at home and they're just like, all of a sudden they're looking for something to do on a Saturday and they automatically post to there what's going on in town. And I try to reiterate, like, we have this great, amazing website where you could just pick a day and it tells you everything. And I think when we did our strat plan for MHP and we were talking about the snowshoeing, and I'm like, is it on that website? Because that's where people need to go
It
to
sure
find
is,
out
yeah.
what we're doing. And I echo it like to my friends in the South or whatever, like, look at
great.
this amazing thing that Huntsville has. And I think that's great. I think you definitely, so more comments, you put us on the map. The other thing I noticed is packages. Like I know Deerhurst did over the summer or over the winter, there was the Forest of Light with a skiing
Yes.
package. And I mean, I look at myself and I go to, like, a couple of summers ago, I went to Charlottetown and I'm there and I'm looking and Googling what is there to do. And there's the walking tours and the packages. And I think, slowly but surely we're getting there with this,
Yep.
with the idea that, there is you can TripAdvisor or Google whatever and be able to find, packages. And I mean, Helena mentioned there's a lady looking to do a walking tour of downtown Huntsville and those kinds of things. So I think that's great that we are becoming that destination that when people get here, there's like, okay, there's this package or there's this thing to do and so much
Yep,
more that
absolutely.
is putting us on the map. So I appreciate that.
Good to hear. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks very much. I was curious, what's the percentage of revenue versus marketing when you're putting the money out? Do you have like,
How much do we invest in marketing?
yes,
I think I'd say we're close to 50% in marketing. Much of that, it's a hard thing to measure because some of that goes into asset development because there's campaigns that string off of it. But Yeah, I would say it's about 50% that, and then there's supporting all the other groups. And in those other groups, there's a lot of marketing happening, right? So it's hard. I would say like our goal always is marketing, almost 100%. So, yeah, it's kind of tough kind of answer. Follow up?
Yeah, just with the marketing aspect, with the Forest of Light.
Yep.
60% were from out of town.
Yep.
I'm just wondering, is there something new we're going to happen to bring those 60% people back again? Or is
Love
what's
that. Thank
happening?
you.
Is it-
Yes, great question. Yes, in fact, we received funding this year and it's being matched. So we're investing almost $200,000 again into Forest of Light. Sandhill never ceases to amaze us. They're doing lots more. We're helping them. This, by the way, was, all sort of public. There's many other organizations that could have come forward and hosted Forest of Light. But I think we chose the right business and the right public-private partnership. And there's ample continued investment. The investment that we're talking about is coming from the province. Sandhill's matching it. So we're just sort of helping them along. Yeah, so it's amazing. You'll see big growth there. Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Councillor Morrison and then Councillor Schumacher.
Just a quick note when it comes to the awareness of Explore Huntsville. I'm the paper person. I go to a hotel, I grab all the brochures. My family makes fun of me, but I love going through them. But I will say we put a concerted effort into being the place people find when they search. And if you search things to do Huntsville, Ontario, tourism, Huntsville, Ontario, once you get through all the sponsored stuff like TripAdvisor and everything, we're number one every time. So if people are in town, they're looking, they will find Explore Huntsville, which has been the efforts of Kelly and the underrated Torin, who does a lot of that work.
Indeed. Not underrated in my mind.
Councillor Schumacher?
Because you did your presentation so briefly, I mean, you kind of I did attend Frost.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Fire versus
Yeah,
Frost,
Frost first.
event. So I think, building on stuff like that is, I mean, there wasn't enough food to go around, so we just ended up coming into town to have
Yeah.
dinner or whatever. But it was a great event and well attended.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
much.
it was,
happening
I
again.
loved those Fridays. That was the opportunity. You get a few friends get together and go and do that with all the activities.
Yeah.
So I think there's opportunity
You bet.
definitely to build on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming
Good luck
in.
with the rest of your meeting.
No, that was great. Thank you. Okay, gang, I am turning the chair over to Councillor Fitzgerald to take over for operations and protective services.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. We have a divisional report. It's regarding firefighter certification update presentation, and I believe that Nick is probably here. Oh, I didn't see Paul in the back. We have Paul and Nick. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, good morning, everybody. I love the festive atmosphere here this morning. We've picked a great day to be sitting in front of council. Go Canada, go. Thank you for your time this morning. And I do have a new face to some of you with me here at the table. First of all, Chief Monahan sends his regrets. He's actually on his way to Gananoque as we speak. He has a meeting today with the minister in charge of driver training regarding the fire service in the province. And so an important meeting that he had to be at is he is one of the leaders in the province actually when it comes to firefighter driver training. So that's why he needed to be at that. There's nobody that knows more about it in the province than Chief Monahan. So he sent the B team, and with me today, I have Training Officer Nick Brookser with me. I realized while I was sitting in the back there and he was introducing himself to some of you councilors, you may not have met him yet. Nick came to us in 2022, and one of the complaints we have in the fire service is that on the volunteer side, we generally train up members, we get them to certification, which is what we're going to talk about today, and then they're successful in landing career jobs in other municipalities, and sometimes we lose them because of that. This went the other way. We were able to, I think it was a bit of a coup that we stole Nick from St. Catharines Fire. And he comes to us with over 10 years of experience, 12, I think it is, on the career side, 14 on the career. It's even better. And we brought him on in 2022, and he took over my role as training officer as I was moved into deputy chief in 2022. And he just added to the team that we currently have. We've been fortunate. One of the hardest things you have to do as administration is hire people and hire the right people. And we've had to do 4 hires since we started, Chief Monahan and myself in 2022. And right from administration to the 2 FPOs with Steve, Grant, and Nicole, we've hit home runs with all 4 hires that we've had. And you'll see the presentation that Nick is going to bring to you today will be a testament to that. So if you'll indulge me just a little bit more, I'd actually like to start with a quote. And this is one of my favorite fire service quotes as we talk about certification. And it comes from John Eversole. John Eversole, at the height of his career, was a special operations chief for Chicago Fire. And to clarify, the real Chicago Fire, not the TV show, okay? So, John Eversole was asked about the level of service and preparation for his fire department during an interview session and stuff like that. And his comment was, our department takes 1,120 calls every day. Do you know how many of those calls the public expects perfection on? 1,120. Nobody calls the fire department and says, send me 2 incompetent firefighters in a pickup truck. In 3 minutes, they want 5 brain surgeon decathlon champions to come and solve all their problems. For me, truer words have never been spoken. And even though we may not run 1,000 calls a day, Huntsville Fire will run anywhere from 600 to 700 within a year. The expectations for us are similar from the people that we serve, from the people that work for us, and also from administration. We try to deliver the best service that we can. And a major component to that in preparing our members is through the training that's provided. And what I want you to understand today is when we start to look at the numbers that Nick is going to present to you, and I really didn't understand some of them until we sat and he put it all together for us as a group to look at. It's unbelievable what's been accomplished by our department in the last 10 years, specifically when you look at it through the lens that these are 51 dedicated volunteers that are seeing this through, certification through. There was a major shift in the fire service in 2013 in Ontario when the chiefs of the province moved from the Ontario curriculum to what we now know as the NFPA standards. And you've talked to me enough that you've heard me talk about mandatory certification and certification in general. But that was the first shoe that dropped in 2013. And that was a seismic shift to the fire service because we moved from a standpoint where up until then we could train, and we did. We have members on council that were part of the fire department and trained and responded to calls. But now not only did we have to train, but now we were being held accountable through testing. And believe it or not, up until then, that was almost non-existent in the province of Ontario. Chief Hernan often would make the saying that the person that cuts your hair actually has to have certification, but the person that we were mandating to drive a $3 million tower doesn't necessarily have to outside of a driver's license. So that was a seismic shift for us in the fire service. And some departments have been successful with obtaining certification and being ready for the second shoe that's dropping on July 1st, which is next week, when we are mandated to be certified to the job that we are required to do. Other departments are not. And the biggest reason, I've talked to many departments in the province in the last 10 years, and one of the biggest components of that is having a full-time training officer. Without that component, it's almost impossible for a department to meet what is being directed by the province that will happen within a week's time. So I'm going to stop talking for now. I'm going to turn it over for Nick. He's got a presentation for you. So just remember what we've spoken about here as you see the numbers that are put in front of you. And we'll be ready for questions afterwards.
Thanks, Deputy, for the introduction, and thanks, Council, for having us here this morning. It's nice to put some faces to some names, so very nice to be here. As the deputies touched on, I'm going to give a presentation on where we're at as a fire department in terms of mandatory certification, a term I'm sure you're familiar with as we've been talking about it for the last decade or more. I'm going to start by reviewing the regulation that defines mandatory certification in the province, just to make sure we're all on the same page. And then I'm going to highlight the investments made by both firefighters and the municipality, which has positioned us very well to meet the 2 deadlines that are outlined within the regulation itself. Ontario Regulation 343 stipulates that all provincial firefighters require certification in the job tasks that they're expected to perform. And those job tasks are defined in National Fire Protection Association standards. The standards that relate to our municipality and our fire department are dictated through our establishing and regulating bylaw. And that's how we design our training programs, to make sure that our firefighters are prepared to deliver an effective service to our community. Within that regulation, we're quickly approaching the first deadline, which is next week, a week from today, July 1st, which requires all firefighters to be certified in general firefighting duties. And what that means is it's a pretty wide variety of job skills, everything from deploying a hose off a fire truck, pulling it into a house and suppressing a fire, to driving a fire truck, conducting inspections, investigations, and so forth. The second deadline is July 1st, 2028, 2 years from now, which requires our firefighters to be certified in technical rescue. And for Huntsville, as our ENR bylaw currently stands, that means our firefighters need to be certified in both surface water and ice rescue. So to build off what the deputy's already spoken on, we began certifying firefighters in 2015. That's when the first certifications were earned in our department. And that was done in anticipation of this regulation eventually being tabled. The initial regulation came out in 2018, but was later revoked after extensive feedback from provincial fire departments. It was revised and then reintroduced in 2022, enacted, and it's remained in place ever since. I'm really happy to report that we are compliant with the July 1st, 2026 deadline. We were compliant several months ago, which is a massive accomplishment on behalf of our firefighters and the department. And now we look ahead to the July 1st, 2028 deadline. So focusing in on the 2026 deadline next week and what that means for our firefighters. This regulation speaks to a number of certifications that our staff need to hold. And there's quite a variety depending on the rank and position you hold within our department in terms of how many certifications each individual needs to attain. On the lower end of the spectrum in terms of numbers of certifications, and only in line with this regulation. There's many certifications outside this regulations our firefighters need to hold as well. But speaking from this regulation solely, our firefighters need a minimum of 3 certifications. So when we hire a firefighter, they undergo a recruit training program where they attain firefighter level 1, firefighter level 2, and hazmat operations certifications. All in all, that takes them about 250 hours in the first year. And that does not include call response or regularly occurring monthly training and maintenance nights. So it's a huge commitment for our first year members. After that, our firefighters have the option for promotion, and they can work their way through the ranks up to the top rank in the volunteer ranks, which is station chief. And then they could also enter the career side within our department, which would be training officer, prevention officer, deputy fire chief, or chief. What this means is our firefighters hold anywhere between 3 and about 6 certifications on average, but many of which hold over a dozen, depending on how long they've been here and what job skills they're expected to perform on scene. The higher the rank, the more responsibility they have on scene, the more training they require, and the more secure certifications they hold. So what did it take to get here? Since 2015, and only speaking about current members, so this doesn't include members of our department who joined our department, attained certification, served our community, and have since retired. Our members have dedicated over 17,000 hours of training since 2015 and attained over 285 certifications. This is a huge accomplishment by our firefighters. And what makes these numbers even more impressive is those 17,000 training hours are only the hours required to attain the certifications outlined in the regulation. They don't include certifications such as standard first aid and CPR, joint health and safety, or anything above and beyond the regulation itself. Those hours also don't include regular monthly training and maintenance nights or call response. And as the deputy stated, we're anywhere between 600 and 700 calls per year. And they're doing that while they're balancing their full-time job, families, and all other obligations outside the department. So that's something our firefighters should be extremely proud of, and us in this room and our community should acknowledge. To our firefighters, we want to, on behalf of the department, we want to extend our sincere appreciation to them and the hard work that they've put into ensuring that our municipality is not only compliant, but that we are able to deliver an extremely safe and effective service to our community. And what this has resulted in, of course, is that we are 100% compliant for the July 1st deadline. Looking ahead to July 1st, 2028, we're now setting our sights on technical rescue certification. With our current establishing and regulating bylaw, we'll be certifying firefighters in both surface water rescue and ice rescue. And I have rope rescue on there as well. There's an emerging need within our community to offer rope rescue services. We do offer rope rescue services in a limited capacity currently, and this is something that our chief will be speaking to council in the coming months as we look to revise our establishing bylaw to ensure it's meeting the needs of our community. Future planning considerations. The province has invested a lot of resources and time into developing 2 more certification pathways in both vehicle rescue and incident command. Those 2 certifications are currently not included in the regulation, but we do anticipate them to be included likely past 2028. We're not sure what the deadline would be, but the writing's on the wall. So we're going to also begin certifying to those 2 disciplines as well. And that's all I got. So we're open to questions if anybody has any.
Thanks, both of you, for coming and presenting this. Some of the numbers surprised me, actually. The amount of hours required for the to reach the levels necessary to become a firefighter. But I'm surprised at the amount of hours, and I know how many more hours they put in to reach the other certifications. So I'll go to questions around. Mayor Alcock, saw you first.
Okay, I just very quickly, thank you, Chair Fitzgerald, and thank you for the presentation. It's very impressive. We're very fortunate, and thank you for your leadership. I'm just curious if you have a sense with this looming July 1st deadline, how we compare to other municipalities, given I think we've had a solid training record for a while. So do we have any sense of that, Paul or Nick?
Yes, thank you. To you, Chair. So I can tell you that within the District of Muskoka, we're all on par. We're fortunate that when it comes to the recruit training side, back in 2014, I believe it was, that we began a joint training program within the District of Muskoka. So it was a collaboration between all of the departments at the time. So from that perspective, all of our neighboring municipalities are pretty much on par, which is great because with the mutual aid agreements that we need, and let's face it, we do only have 51 members, and that's sometimes not enough, and we need assistance from other municipalities. We're bringing members in that are trained to the same level. I can tell you outside of the district, there are fire departments that are struggling though, and they're struggling for 2 reasons. One, they had administration that did not think that mandatory certification was actually going to be a thing, so they just ignored it altogether, and they have been playing catch up within the last 10 months to a year to try and obtain it. And secondly, they have members on the floor that didn't want to buy into it. They didn't want to be tested now. They didn't want to be held accountable. And so without that buy-in, we've had that from the 51 members that are on our department, and actually more because some have left, but we've had that buy-in, and because of that, we've been successful.
Thank you, Chair Fitzgerald, and thank you, gentlemen, for the presentation. I'm always amazed. I learn something new every time. Now, I noticed that you never mentioned or you never called the firefighters volunteers. Are they considered volunteers, the 51 or the 48 members? And I can see by the look on your face, Deputy Chief, that I can imagine the amount of time and energy that they're putting into being certified, that they would almost be considered part-time. And maybe that's, I think, I was actually at the firefighting symposium that we had at Deerhurst, and that came up. So I don't want to open a can of worms, but I'm sure, I think I have. Okay. Well, I think I've.
Can you put your can opener away before?
Through you, Chair, we're going fishing after because the worms are out. No, the reality is it truly is up to a municipality whether you deem your members as part-time or volunteer. There are some municipalities, the city of Ottawa is probably the biggest example, that in the last 2 years has designated all of their volunteers. Believe it or not, the city of Ottawa has a massive volunteer contingent outside of the city proper. They have now designated them as part-time employees. There are other municipalities, though, that keep it the same way. What makes them a volunteer is that they get the opportunity to say, no, I'm not going to respond to this call. When you are a full-time or a part-time employee, you are scheduled. It is a gray area for us, though, in the province right now, because you can argue that, well, we schedule you for training and maintenance and certain events. So yes, you're part-time, but there could be a call right now, and of our 51 members, only 5 of them go, right? Because that's the volunteer component to it. So it depends who you talk to.
Follow up?
If I may follow up, so when these volunteers or these firefighters are being certified, are they paid to be certified? Are we paying them to do this work?
Yes,
Yes.
every
Okay.
member is compensated for everything that we would call a sanctioned event. So public ed events, training events, maintenance events, all their calls. They don't do it for free. There is an hourly wage. We have that structured, and that's important for us, and we do compensate them well that way. But yes, the volunteer side is that they don't have to respond. Yeah.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Fitzgerald. Gentlemen, as you all know, first responders are very expensive when it comes to municipalities, et cetera, right? From police, paramedics and firefighters, and some municipalities struggle with that number. So I'm just curious, you mentioned the 3 certifications you must have. How many of the other certifications are must-haves, or can we just choose not to respond to those types of calls? For example, ice water rescue. I'm not sure how many calls a year we get for that, but do we train 51 people to that level at that cost to maybe not get a call? I'm just curious for stuff. What can we do for the bare minimum to get certification? Not saying we want to go there. I'm just wondering what that is.
Go ahead.
I'll start to answer this one, but I might lean on the deputy here to help me out. That's an excellent question and one that's asked. I would imagine it is asked in most municipalities as we strive to have an effective but efficient fire service as well. In the current regulation with general firefighting duties, nearly 100% of the certifications are required, but not by 100% of our staff. And we look at our incident management structure, as you'd be familiar with. We work in a system where we delegate tasks and ensure adequate supervision of staff as they're performing things that can place them in highly hazardous environments. And to do that, our incident management structure has to have numerous layers to it, with each layer holding additional responsibilities above and beyond the layer before it. Every time staff fulfill a position within a layer with more responsibilities, the regulation requires that they receive an additional certification. The 3 certifications is the minimum, but to enable firefighters who hold only those 3 certifications, you need driver operators to operate the fire trucks to get them, those firefighters with the 3 certifications, to a fire, and those driver operators to run the pumps to supply the hoses with water. Those driver operators need an additional 2 certifications. For all that to happen, we need supervision, which is all defined in Ontario Health and Safety and through the NFPA standards. Supervisors on the department, depending on what level they are within the organization, require further certifications to enable the driver operators and team leaders, who then enable the firefighters to complete tasks on scenes. It's an excellent question, especially when we start talking about technical rescue. This is where the municipality can certainly either upscale or scale back the services that we deliver. When we look at the hazards within the Huntsville response area, when we look at our call data and our call history, we know that both surface water and ice rescue services are required. We respond to incidents annually, and our firefighters make a real difference. They literally save lives when they're going out and performing these services. So for us to retract that service wouldn't be in our best interest. So as our current establishing bylaw stands, it's a service, 2 services we would certainly want to keep, and with that would come the certifications required. The other thing we look at is these certifications represent the minimum level of qualification. We can say it that way, qualification for firefighters to perform these services. The reality is once our firefighters attain these certifications, what we do is we look at developing competent people through knowledge, training, and experience. And the training delivered to attain these certifications is done once, and the certifications don't expire. It is then our job to ensure that they're exposed to enough training, actual incidents, and other forms of information to ensure that they remain competent, not only to make sure that our community receives an effective service, but to also ensure our firefighters are safe and we avoid injury and that sort of thing. So where we sit now, from my position, I believe that we are at the minimum level of certification, but that is, I mean minimum only in the sense that we can only go up from here, and not in the sense that we're missing any certifications that are required.
If I can just add to that quickly, I think part of your question as well was, can we just train to a standard, not necessarily certify, and then deliver that service? Was that part of it?
I'd say maybe that's part of it. I was just curious
Yeah.
from where I came from, where the certification process was really just beginning
Yes.
to where we are today, and
Yes.
how your SOGs and et cetera come into
Yes.
play and stuff.
So that's the transition in the fire service right there. That's what happened in 2013 and has led us here today. We can no longer just train to a standard and provide that service. We have to certify that. It's no different than driver training. We have to have a DZ license to drive the apparatus. We can't just train people on trucks and then let them go drive. That's regulated by the province, as now is firefighter services. So that's why we're here today.
Thank you both for your response. Follow-up?
Just a
Deputy
quick
Mayor?
follow-up. So this ministry, I guess maybe I'm confusing myself, I don't know. So the ministry says you have to train to this level to be considered a firefighter or a fire department, correct? Is that what it is? It's
Basically what they're saying that as a municipality, if you decide to deliver this level of service, then you have to certify to that level of service. That's basically what they're saying. Yes.
Any further questions? Councillor Schumacher.
So yes, I guess the day that Councillor Fitzgerald, Councillor Stone, and myself did our training, we're not fully certified.
We'll make an exemption in your case, and we've got gear hanging in each station for you.
So it was, yes, you missed that day. It was last term. It was really good. You guys should try. But yes, further to that question. So do you see this impacting, and I will call them volunteers, I know it's a touchy subject, and Keith is going to hold over his ears because then it starts to get into benefits and all of that stuff, pensions. Do you see this impacting the number of volunteers? Like, I know we had some calls, Jason and myself, because Muskoka Lakes were maybe not able to fully staff some of their facilities, and how that was going to impact, Skeleton Lake, all of those areas. Is this going forward going to impact the number that you see us with recruitment, and that they have to do all of this training in order to be certified, or they've been doing it?
So thank you, and through your chair. It already has impacted us in a certain way. We host an information session every year when we do our recruitment program, and we often fill the training room at the fire station. I've had as many as 50 or 60 prospective candidates that come in and want to know about the fire department. Once they realize the commitment that's involved, and we do have a heavy first year specifically, because we've decided, we've taken the initiative to get all of that training up front. We have 36 months to get somebody certified when they first come on board, but we choose to do it all up front, because if you're going to wait the 36 months, it just takes forever, and you just never get there with individuals. So when they see the scope of their first year, of that 50 or 60, you get 20 or 25 that apply. So we do see that. Currently, we do have a decent number. The separation with Lake of Bays is going to affect things slightly, in that we don't just have 3 other fire stations that are automatically being dispatched, but we do have mutual and automatic aid agreements in place that will allow us to use those resources in other ways, which is fine. We are currently looking at our staffing level, though, and there's possible that we will be coming to you and saying we need to increase that a little bit. So it does have an effect that way, because on top of all of that, as we've mentioned, we're also getting busier as a department. So not only do they have to attain all these certifications, but the 400 calls are now going to 450 calls. Station 1 here in town is probably going to run 455 calls this year. Well, that's almost 2 a day. And that's a big commitment for individuals that are living full-time lives outside of that. And so that's also adding to the pressures of it. And that's what's affecting retention and recruitment as well.
No, Thank you for that. Yeah, it's probably definitely a lot different than the 17 years my father was a volunteer firefighter back in the day. And the calls obviously are changing to the perspective that people are, it might have been chimney fires and those kinds of things. And now we're seeing, yeah, a little more intense training and vehicles and, those kinds of things that, maybe we didn't.
Challenges today, that's for sure, yes.
Thanks, Sean. Any further questions? I just had one thing for clarity. The surface water rescue, ice rescue, and rope rescue, those are things that we decide whether we are going to offer. So if council and collectively you and Chief and Nick decide that, I believe we probably do want these services, but if we decide we don't want these services, then we don't have to provide these services. Am I correct in that?
You're 100% correct in that,
Okay.
yes.
And I do think that surface water and ice rescue is essential for us to have here, considering where we are and how much ice and water we do have.
Yes.
When you come to us for bylaw review, bring some rope rescue data with you.
We will.
Thanks. One more.
Thanks
Get
very
from
much.
Harmer.
Thanks very much, Chair Fitzgerald. Just, you actually mentioned it, retention. I know that what the average volunteer firefighter stays on now, 3 to 5 years, and there's a huge cost associated with all this training, all that stuff. How are we combating that to keep firefighters with us longer instead of moving on to different departments or full-time departments, actually?
Thank you for that question, through you, Chair, and it is a great question. We talk about that often. We have seen an increase in the retention of our members. For the longest time, Chief Monahan had a number, 3.8 years. That was what we could expect from a member. We don't have the exact right now, but that average is up well over the 5-year mark for somebody. We're seeing that through our recognition ceremonies. When we hold that annually, we are seeing more and more members that are now starting to receive their 5, 10, and 15-year acknowledgements. So the attrition has been less, which is fantastic, because if we're going to talk dollars, that's a huge benefit to the municipality that we don't have to retrain people all the time. It's a moving target. It's hard to really put a figure on that. We do have a figure of what it costs to actually train one recruit with equipment and hours and everything like that. I want to say it's around $16,000 a year for one. So it's a big cost to municipality. The smaller we can keep the recruit classes, the better it is for us, because then we can take those funds and we can utilize them better within our department. So.
I'm seeing no further questions. Thank you both, gentlemen. Appreciate your presentation and excited to see how well things are going. I'm going to pass the chair over to Deputy Mayor Armour for Development Services.
Sim first.
Thanks very much, Councillor Fitzgerald. So we're going to move into divisional reports. It's 6.4.1. It's report DEV 2026-54. It's the Muskoka Community Land Trust update. This is just for information, and Director Maxwell's here for it.
Thank you. I know that we've been talking about the land trust and the development for quite a long time, and I just wanted to provide an update on where we're currently at with things. We have the bylaw amendment was done last fall, so that now the property is zoned appropriately and the number of units has been established that can be accommodated on site. We've been working through a significant number of technical matters when it comes to the ownership of all of the parcels. The lands consist currently of 6 parcels that we need to consolidate into one to make sure that it stays as one piece as part of the letter of intent that we've all agreed to. The letter of intent has been signed. The option to purchase agreement has been signed. We've provided a site alteration permit for the phase 1 development area, which is shown in the report. It's been determined that the tower, we are able to transfer the lands as it stands now and maintain access for the tower for maintenance. And then when it's determined whether or not we need to move the tower or if we can co-locate on an adjacent tower instead, that gives us the flexibility there with the land trust. And so that phase 1 building would be able to go ahead once everything has been transferred and their CPP for the development has happened. So we've been meeting bi-weekly with the engineers and the architects and the land trust people to make sure that any questions that come up when it comes to the physical development can all be addressed as quickly as possible so that there's no delays in moving this along. And I am happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thanks very much for that. Do we have any questions? Councillor Morrison.
Just want a comment just to call out Director Maxwell, the amount of work she's put into this, like just rapid response because some of it needed it. And also at the district, between the district and Director Maxwell, they've moved a lot of stones and got it done. And really exciting news, we've secured a significant portion of financing for us. So when we get through all these hurdles, we're finally going to be where we need to be. And it's a big thanks to our director.
Any other questions? No. Seeing none, we'll turn the chair over to Corporate Services, and that's Councillor Morrison.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Armour. And we have a couple of information only items regarding Lakeland, and I'll start off with our CAO on 6.5.1 regarding report number CAO 2026-2 Lakeland Holding Limited 2026 Q1 shareholders update.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So the report is before you just for information. It is a Q1 report, and a lot of the information is similar to the shareholder meeting update, so I probably won't speak to the Q1, and if there's any questions, I can deal with them in the next report. Thank you.
All right. Any questions on this particular report? Well, that was easy. All right. And now we'll go on to the next one, and that is 6.5.2. It's regarding report number CAO 2026-3, the Lakeland Holding Limited Annual Shareholder Meeting, the 2025 Annual Report.
Through you, Chair Morrison, thank you. So the report is very detailed, so I won't rehash all of the information, but I think the key thing that committee is most interested in is the dividend payment. So as committee is aware, we did receive notice from Lakeland late last year, early into the year, about the dividend payment, saying that we would only receive 50%. So that is coming for 26. We did have a conversation with the board to find out what the 27 numbers will look like. They were not able to commit at this time, but they recognize that municipal councils are dealing with their budgets in the fall, and they did say that they would make an effort to get us that information so that we can include that within our 27 budget. So one thing I would like to highlight is that so far, Lakeland is seeing a great year for 26. They actually are surpassing their numbers for 2023. So, so far, so good. So unless there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Mayor Alcock to start.
I don't have a question. Thank you, Chair Morrison. I just wanted to add that I attended, obviously, the last shareholders meeting, and I will say that the tone of that meeting was very different from the previous one when we just we just heard about the dividend. And to CAO Corey's point about 26 is turning out to be a much better year. So they were very hopeful. They weren't giving us, yes, 100% we will reinstate where we were at, but I think they're very hopeful, and the amount of information that was part of the discussion seemed to be much more fulsome than previous meetings. So I think that was actually a good lesson for Lakeland, that include your shareholders before you announce things.
Yes, especially municipalities. Any other questions on this report? Well, CEO Corey, thank you. So we're about to get into one more report and then the user group request, which will be the Riva show for a little while. And hopefully if anybody had any amendments, they emailed Jessica if they had concerns. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion. For the first one here, the next report, I'm going to pass the chair to my co-chair because I've been involved in this file a bit more than the others. And I'll let Helena take over for this part.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. So we are looking at 6.5.3, and it's the Corporate Services Report 2026-37, the update on the Town Dock sauna request. And there is a motion, but so it's moved, but actually I'm going to move it. It says me as the mover, but I'm going to change that to you, if that's okay, Jessica? Sure. Can I move it, or?
No, you can't.
Scott. So I'll change that. Moved by Scott and seconded by Jason Fitzgerald. that it is recommended that committee select option blank as noted in the report of Corp 2026-37. And we'll go to Reva. She'll explain what's going on here.
Thank you. So through you, Chair Renwick. I think there's a lot of information in the report. We were directed at the April General Committee meeting to report back on this request on specifically town-owned property and where it could be. So there's a lot of detailed information. We did a lot of internal consultation with all of the different departments. As part of this report, I also consulted with different environmental groups, so the Friends of Muskoka Watershed, the Fairy Lake Association, the Lake Vernon Association. In addition, there are included in the report some letters of support from the tourism-related entities, so the BIA, the Chamber, and HMATA. We also did direct consultation with the businesses that are facing the waterfront downtown. So on the Docks Pub, Affogato, Algonquin Outfitters, and that little place by the lights. So we want to make sure that we did a fulsome sort of review of the locations down there. And I did go back and look at the April 29th General Committee meeting just to see, okay, what was the discussion? So I think everything's in the report and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Reba. Are there any questions around the table? I'm sure there will be. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you through you. And yes, I missed that meeting, so I did go back and watch it. I guess my question is more around, love the concept. I heard what everybody sort of had to say. Is there a difference though, if somebody comes to us and they want to put something on town property, or say Oliver's Coffee, where we may have gone out to tender for a business in that location kind of thing? Is there a difference in that and how we present it? Because there may be other people who wanted this same option.
Reba, go ahead.
So through you, Chair Renwick. So we do have a leasing policy in place, and there are sort of two options in that policy where if we're presented with a formal written request from a third party to lease town-owned lands, we can entertain that. And there's a whole consultation process. So with this process, we haven't actually received a formal written request with the full business plan and all of the details yet. So that is something that we would need to get from Mr. Prince if we would like to move forward with this. There is also the second option where we could do an open procurement type of thing, to like an open call out for other businesses that would like to lease a specific space if there was a specific space that council wanted us to lease. So there are kind of two options within our policy.
And so a follow-up?
Follow-up, yeah. So if we did go with option A because he came forward, are we giving it in like perpetuity? Are we just leasing for a year? Are we, and then somebody else could come next year and go, well, I'd like that space and I have this business concept and I want that. Like, how does that work? And that's something we, I guess, iron out, but I'd like to know the answer.
Yep.
Yeah, so through you, Chair Renwick, that's up to council. So in the option in the report, there's both the location is blank and the term for the number of years is blank. So it's as per council direction. We can enter into a lease for a year. We can enter into a lease for 5 years. It's really whatever you guys want to do.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you, Chair Renwick. Question about that, because there's comments about electrical capacity, et cetera. Like, have they done any pricing on that yet to see what it's going to cost to be able to run the proper amount of electricity out to this and et cetera, and, or snow removal and all that other stuff that comes in place?
Go ahead.
Yep, so through you, Chair Renwick. That would be sort of his research to do. How much would it cost to do the snow clearing and all of that stuff? How much would it cost to put electrical capacity in there? And you know, I can certainly work with him on providing, you know, contacts to get that information. But the lease would be very specific, and we would need to include clauses in the lease that those are his costs to bear, because we don't want it to cost taxpayers anything, right? In terms of electrical capacity, I have been working with him on different options where it's not necessarily, you know, that he needs electrical. So there is the wood burning option, and I did consult with the fire department on that. So it wouldn't be an open burning heater. It would have to be a firebox with dampeners and everything. And as long as that's the case, then the fire department did not have an issue with it. And I know that that was kind of his preferred method of heating originally, and he was thinking it was going to be an issue. So we've kind of worked all of that out, and it's really not an issue. The other option I had kind of researched and helped propose to him was there's an option of propane heating. To get the whole thing sort of off grid. And then that way location doesn't really become an issue for him if he were to ever move to a private location later. He doesn't have to move to a location with electrical capacity. So from an economic development standpoint, I've been working with him on his sort of business model and sort of the structure of what that looks like as well, to try and make things easier for him moving forward.
Councillor Stone.
Thanks. In option one, where we would approve a location and a term, there's not an option for winter months as opposed to, it appears that the recommendation is for at least a full year. And I would prefer to add that it be allowed in a particular location for just the winter months, not the summer months. So perhaps we can adjust that when we get around to it.
Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I'll just speak to it a bit. First of all, the work Director Frame has put into this has been unbelievable, especially with the user group stuff and everything else going on, leaning into finding out what a vessel is and dealing with other ministries, and you wouldn't believe the stuff. And on top of that, keeping me up to speed, keeping Mike up to speed the whole time. So that's amazing. On the location-wise, I know that has been discussed, and the location, the one location we decided probably wouldn't be good in the summer months at all, at least from boating season on, right? Like probably from May long weekend onwards. So I think you could extend it into May, and then once boating season's done, put it back in. Was that? And flooding too. We have to think about the flooding time. Now, thankfully, it's floating. He would need to be aware of that. So that's something I think should be addressed, and at least I think Director Frame will address that. And he's also talked about being quite willing to move it, that he is very amenable to that, at least for the first year. Let's get it going and then see how it grows. I'm wondering, just the one question I have is, on the term, I mean, me personally, I'd be okay with maybe starting with like just a 3-year term, see how it goes. Doesn't have to be 5, I don't think, to start. If it's going amazing after that, obviously the next council could decide to extend it. But 5 years would carry into 2 different councils. And 1 year is really tough as a business model just to start and only have 1 year guaranteed. But I wonder about opt-outs, and I think this is something you can deal with in the lease. But for instance, from his side, if he decides after a year he's found a better location, because Director Frame has had discussions about other spots on private land. And if it's also from our side, if after a year, if there's opt-outs, if something should occur, or if this should happen, if we have an opt-out potential. So those are the 2 things that I think could be addressed. And I agree with Councillor Stone on the location being specific to a time period so it doesn't impact boating and the docks.
Your Worship.
Thank you, Chair Renwick, and thank you for all of those comments, Councillor Morrison, because you touched on a number of things. I do like the idea of leaving the summer months open for regular dock season, and the opt-out clause, because I know that he said he was willing to consider a private location, but obviously further work needs to go into that. So if after a year that became apparent that maybe it's just better, there's a better location across the river or whatever. So I do like the as long as we have language around opting out if needed. And I guess, so the proposal of what we're considering is having it at the docks in the winter and the off-season, and then moving it over to the garden, for lack of another word, the garden space? Is that sort of?
Yeah, Director Frame.
So through you, Chair Renwick. There are a number of details about the town dock location in the winter months. And while that is, from an optics perspective, a great location, 100%, from a winter maintenance perspective, it may be fairly difficult for him because where we do the winter snow storage from Dara Halloway and the parking areas and everything, you wouldn't be able to come off there. You would have to come down by the walkway beside Pizza and the dock and Pub on the Docks, which is quite steep. And from an environmental perspective, the environmental groups we did consult with were quite concerned that there would be winter sand and salt used in that location, which is not ideal because it would leach off into the water. So ultimately, in the internal conversations, we had kind of felt that the River Mill Park location would offer the optics, like you would still see it perfectly from the docks and everything, and then he wouldn't need to move. And winter maintenance wise, the slope of that land is much flatter, and the district already does winter maintenance of their where their infrastructure is. Into River Mill Park. So it would be a much shorter span for him to have to maintain in the winter. So from a business costing perspective, it may be ideal for him as well. So I just wanted to provide that insight.
Okay.
Did you have a follow-up?
Oh, sorry. I was looking at Scott and I apologize.
That's fair.
Yes, just very quickly. I thank you for that clarification. I guess I misunderstood and that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Councillor Renwick. And thanks, Reva, for all your work on this. I suppose if I had to pick a location, it would be the spot that you were mentioning down at River Mill Park. I guess I do have some concerns with this though, and so I kind of feel like that we should be considering the second option, which is to have Mr. Prince, establish connections with private property owners. I think there's just a lot of potential issues and a lot of questions around having it on municipal property. And that's my concern. Even if it was a short lease of 2 or 3 years, it's 2 or 3 years of, if it doesn't go well or smooth, it could be problematic.
Okay. Councillor Stone.
Yeah, just a quick comment, because not long ago, we considered a hot dog cart in River Mill Park, and we decided clearly that, no, that wasn't the best option. So does this fall into the same realm? I think perhaps.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Renwick. I think I have a couple things actually, and one of the big things that jump out to me right now is public consultation, because it just seems every time we put something in that river, Pipe Man, for example, and I don't see any public consultation in this at all. It's just us working for someone who wants to open a private business. Sounds like we've been doing all the work, in my opinion, checking all environments, etc. So I really look at deferring this personally, because I'm not prepared to vote in favor of either option right now.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Renwick. Thanks, Reva, for all the work. Good report. I have to agree with the last statement that was made by Deputy Mayor Armour. I do like the idea. I do like the River Mill location. It's probably more beneficial for the proponent that wants to do this, or if someone else has the opportunity to do this as well. Again, was this part of that location? Was that part of the environmental consideration in discussions when you were going out to the different groups?
Go ahead, Reba.
So through you, Chair Renwick, one of the concerns that the environmental groups had expressed was in moving it. And they felt strongly that it would be more beneficial for the ecosystem to keep it in one spot.
Mm-hmm.
So
So I guess you said sand and salt was the consideration.
Right.
At the River Mill location, that's not as big a consideration because the land is more level of, and even the applicant, the person proposing this could personally take care of the snow removal without salt or sand. So, yeah, I have to say that I would prefer to have some public input on this as well. It's a big impact on the waterfront and to our users and landowners in the area as well. So I'd
And,
like to see some consultation.
Your worship, back to you.
Thank you, Chair Renwick. And I do find the last comment, I tend to agree, absolutely. I think that we often, whenever we're talking about a new activity, and no matter how great it is, because from a conceptual perspective, I love this. But you're quite right. As soon as, we have in our notes that putting it in an area that was unofficial, swimming, unauthorized swimming or whatever. And I think, but that'll be the first, but that'll be the first group that says, wait a minute, what happened to our swimming area? Right? And yeah, exactly. And so it does warrant, we may think this is a great idea, no matter how much work you've put into this revamp, which is a lot, I know. And I tend to agree with the comment. We seem to have done a lot of the work, we being town. And that's no reflection on Mr. Prince. You're doing due diligence, and that makes all the sense in the world. But it's just as we receive support from the three major, from the BIA, the Chamber, HMATA, that's really important. But we view that as really important. Why wouldn't we expand that so we get further public input? And I tend to agree with that.
Yeah, Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we've learned lessons over the term of more consultation is better. So I think Deputy Mayor Armour hit the nail on the head there. And I agree for a couple of reasons. One, I think Mr. Prince, who's also put a lot of time and effort into this, if he was to launch this, he wouldn't want to have backlash, right? So if we do it right, I tend to agree maybe this is the right way to go. Because I personally thought Pipe Man was cool and I didn't think it was fair. The artists and people involved got so much backlash, and so it is what it is. So I don't think he would like that either. There has been a bunch of really important consultation with the lake associations, which would be most vocal. The watershed, which would obviously have an input, and of course the business owners, the Chamber, BIA, HMATA. So there has been a lot of consultation, but as far as the residents, no. So I wonder, I guess my question is, quick comment. Could we conceivably have some consultation between now and July's meeting and bring something back in July? Probably not, because there is also some time-sensitive manners of building the unit and getting it done. So I wouldn't want to rush it to not have consultation. I think we have to do it because it's a great point. And the point on the hot dog thing, it's a bit apples and oranges because the hot dog vendor is food service. We talk about food trucks and food service, not adding something we don't have on the town, in town. And to Councillor Clark's comment, being on town land, like On the Docks Pub's patio is currently on town land. We have Oliver's Coffee Shop in a town unit. There's a lot of situations where we add something to the community that is in a town unit or on town land already. So it's not going against stuff that we already do, and I don't think there's a risk there. And I think our risk management's looked into it. So I think, yeah, consultation, I think I would ask Director Frame to speak to how that would play out, how long it would take, and what you see happening for consultation.
Go ahead, Director Frame.
So through you, Chair Renwick. So in terms of timing of the consultation, it definitely could not be before the July meeting. With Canada Day coming up, and we've got a number of other priority projects that we need to do public communication on. It's just not something that our team can get done in the next, and out. Realistically, it would need to get out this week to be able to have it out long enough to really see an actual appropriate level of engagement. It would likely be, on our engagement platform, a survey that we would have to do communication and media release, all of that stuff. We'd have to, do LCD screens and some graphics around it and all of that. So there's a lot of work in the back end before we can launch something like that. Realistically, we probably wouldn't be able to bring the engagement back or this report back until September.
Go ahead.
That makes total sense. I mean, this is a busy time. And I guess I would ask then, because I think everyone here would agree that it's an important step that Deputy Mayor Armour brought up. So I'm wondering if you could consult with the applicant, find out what like the drop dead time is for when he can actually pull it off for this year. And then if, let's say he needs to know by mid-August and you get the information by August 5th, could we have a special Zoom meeting or something to move it along? Because otherwise, what's the point, right? If it can't happen. So I think that's just something I would
I think the mayor can choose to do that, right, in August? I think I'm just referring to our deputy clerk here, but I believe the mayor has since we don't normally have council in August, I think I have the prerogative to call a special council meeting. I do. I'm getting a nod. Apparently I do.
then just I would say take the time, do it right, and then we'll figure out when to meet and talk about it.
All right, so very healthy discussion around the table. And so at this point, I defer to the clerk. Do we defer this motion or do we, what do we do?
So I heard Deputy Mayor Armour move a motion to defer this report to obtain public information. Do I have a seconder on that? Bob Stone? Okay. I will pull it up on the screen.
So does it need to be mentioned in the motion that staff will consult with the applicant before going to the public consultation phase, perhaps?
I think she will. Yep. Yeah. All right. We'll just wait for this to come up. All right, so it is moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, and seconded by Councillor Stone. It is recommended that Report Corp 2026-37, the update on the Town Dock sauna request be deferred for public input. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, discussion.
Sorry, if I could just make a quick comment. I didn't put a specific date in there as we don't know at this time what the public consultation stage will look like. Director Frame?
I can't provide a date at this point.
Okay. So any discussion on this motion? Is this an amended motion? Or is this a new motion?
It's a motion.
New motion, okay. Councillor Morrison.
Yeah, I like this, and the open-endedness makes sense, and I think we know it's September at the earliest or sooner if the timing needs to happen. But on the deferral, I'll just reiterate something I said earlier. When you're considering this, consider the impact something like this will have on the small operators and accommodators, like the Comfort Inn, the King William Inn. When we're talking about packages, they have now something to sell, right? Something extra, so that their guests aren't at Deerhurst. They can walk downtown, have an experience, and it is a value add. So I think during the consultation, I would hope that we would connect with the small accommodators and hotel owners to see if it would benefit their businesses.
Is there any more discussion on this? No, seeing none. So I'll call the question on the amended motion. All those in favor? Oh, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. And do we do, nope, that's it. Okay. That's it. I was on a roll there. And I will, I'm going to pass the chair back over to the chair of Corporate Services.
All right, thank you, Chair Renwick. That was a great discussion. And we are going to go into the user group break. Okay, so we're gonna do a 5-minute bio break. Is that enough? 10. We'll do a 10-minute bio break. It is at 35 minutes after. We are gonna come back and get right into it. Okay, thank you. Okay, everybody, we're going to reconvene. Only a few minutes longer than expected, so we're good to go. So we have a lot of motions for each of these user group requests. I will read the motion, and then we have individual discussions about them. And of course, there's a big report that has stuff as much as reserve amounts and everything else all in there. Hopefully everybody read that. So we have that information at your disposal. And of course, we have our director willing to answer any questions. So we'll deal with them one by one, and we're going to start with 6.5.4, it's report number Corp 2026-38, 2027 community and user group budget requests. And recommendation number 1 is the Muscle Outdoor Fitness Equipment. Now, I do have a motion on this one. Moved by Nancy Alcock, seconded by Dion Schumacher. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget the Muscle Outdoor Fitness Equipment Project at Meadow Park at a cost of up to $136,100 to be funded as follows. Equipment costs be fully funded by community donations, and installation, park surface, and mobility mat costs be funded up to $81,600 from the Parkland Obligatory Reserve. And further that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce town-funded costs. And further that the Muscle Outdoor Fitness Park be added to the town's asset management inventory, and the annual replacement cost of up to $6,805 be added to Parks capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. And further that the annual Parks operating cost of $1,000 for inspection and maintenance be included in the draft 27 mayor's budget for consideration. I just want to mention one thing for the user groups that might be watching and for us here at the table. This does not mean we're approving it to be done and spent. It means we're improving it for consideration in the 2027 budget, just to be clear. And I'll pass it over to Director Frame.
Thank you, through you, Chair Morrison. So you took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that these recommendations today are generally for inclusion in the 2027 draft budget. There are a couple exceptions with the electrical assessment at Macaulay once we get to those. So with respect to the Muscle Outdoor Fitness Equipment, the original request was actually for 2 parks. And there were 4 suggested locations, and all of this information is in Appendix A in the report. We did a number of site visits with the user group, and they were amenable to 1 park, specifically at Meadow Park. And the proposed location is outlined with pictures in Appendix A, and they have committed to funding the equipment costs related to the installation. So as many of you will recall, in 2025, we installed this same type of equipment, the Muscle Outdoor Fitness Equipment at Avery Beach. And that has been fantastic. So it's just continuing that partnership.
All right, any questions on this particular item? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Thanks for the report. I just have one question that actually groups them all together that instead of me trying to figure, what is going to be the total impact on the 2027 budget, the levy, and on the capital aspect coming up with this whole report?
So through you, Chair Morrison, Appendix J is all of the financial impacts. So it has, if you look at the second page of that appendix, it has the proposed funding for 2026 and 2027 and where all of that comes out of. So it lays out all of the capital and operating impacts for each project and totals at the bottom. So, and sorry, our lovely deputy clerk has brought it up on screen for us. Yeah, I can provide an explanation. So through you, Chair Morrison. So the total capital cost is $654,000, $654,900. The ongoing for those replacements that we would need to add to the levy each year is about $35,000, and that's if all of the projects are approved. and that's for capital. For operating, there are one-time costs specifically for electrical assessments and a parking assessment, the Lakewood Park Shoreline Project, which we can get into later on when we discuss those recommendations. But the one-time costs are about $37,300. And then the ongoing operating costs that would need to be added to the levy as a result of approving all of the projects would be about $19,400.
Yeah, and I'll go to Mayor Alcock, but just to reiterate, when we say $654,900, that's the total capital cost, but not the town's portion of the capital cost.
Right.
The town's portion would be $381,100, and all of that would be funded from reserves. There isn't a levy impact from that capital cost, just to be clear. Thank you. No problem. Councilor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Morrison. And I just want to reiterate the comments that were already made earlier about, that we're just looking to add these to the 2027 budget. I understand that 100%. And I'm happy with the process that we're following here today. I will reserve the right to make adjustments to any of the items, including this one, when the budget is reviewed in 2027, when I see how it's actually going to look like. So I'm just saying that right now.
That is a very fair comment, and something that we all should be aware of, that will be, during the budget, we could wipe out every single one of these, right? Or we could approve them all. Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and certainly ditto. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, that it is just today whether or not we consider putting these on the budget. So I'm going to speak to this one. I think it's great. I think it has a proven track record, and it's been proven to us that the value of the health in our community, this is one that really hits the ball out of the park. So I really support putting this in for consideration in the 2027 budget.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock. From what I understand, they've been well used with no vandalism, and it's going really well so far. The one is being well used. Councilor Schumacher.
So mine is, I guess, kind of generic question for this and for others, where it talks about the ability to go for grants, right? My understanding is, and to Councilor Clark's point, putting these on the consideration for the budget then gets us the ability, or when we talk the budget, the ability to apply for grants. Because my understanding is when you apply for a grant, it has to be something that the town is looking to do. I know, especially from accessibility, I know I have Utterson Hall stuff I want done and when we're looking budget wise, and the ability to go for a grant for like a big centennial celebration. So that is a piece to this too, is that when we're looking at the ones that you identify for grants, there are going to have to be consideration on the budget just to even go for the grant.
So generally speaking, and Director Mackenzie can correct me if I'm wrong here, but we have the authority to apply for grants for projects that have been approved in a capital plan. Since these are being approved for consideration in the budget, they're not fully approved yet. So that's why we've included the additional line in the recommendation, so that we have approval to start looking for grants now, so that it doesn't hold the projects up later. Because it's in a motion of council to start looking for grants now, then we can start doing that.
Thank you. And of course, being back in the Northern Ontario Heritage Funds opens up, and I know Director Frame's actively looking for ways to fund it externally, which is great. Any other questions on this item in particular? Okay, with no other questions, I'll call the questions. All those in favor of the question? All those opposed? Okay, so that carries. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is recommendation number 2, water access improvements. And I do have a motion on this one. Moved by Bob Stone, seconded by Corey Clark. It is recommended that committee accept the donation of up to 2 water access ramps for Camp Kitchen Park and or the Old Town docks behind the Active Living Center. And further, that the ramps be added to the town's asset management inventory, and the annual replacement cost of up to $3,350 be added to the park's capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. And further, that the annual park's operating costs of $3,600 for seasonal installation, removal, and inspection be included in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration.
So through you, Chair Morrison, So again, this is the same group, Triathlon Muskoka, coming forward and this has been a recurring sort of issue coming forward to the council table over a number of years. So these ramps would help with the potential safety concerns at the launch by, it's not a launch, the water access point by the Old Town Docks. Beside the ALC and a Camp Kitchen. So that would really help with their large events, but would be there year round for the public to use. Their intention, and we have provided, the direction in April was to provide this group with a letter of support for applying for the EASE grant, which we did. So the intention here would be that they would get that grant and they would be able to fund the entire purchase of the ramps and just donate the ramps to us. So that we would own them going forward and eventually plan for their replacement. The annual operating costs are to put in the ramps sort of after the winter, put in the ramps and then take them out in the fall and store them. And there are areas directly sort of in those locations that we can store them outside. They just can't be in the water for the winter. And there are some, Ministry of Labor requirements for certifications and stuff like that for our staff to be able to do it. So it just makes more sense to hire the contractor to come in and put them in and take them out.
Thank you for that explanation. Any questions on this one? Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thank you, Chair Moritz. I'm just, actually, it might be for the Director McKenzie. I'm just wondering, is there, what's the liability cost for insurance on this? Is it going to increase anything or change what we currently have?
I don't have specifics on that. I'll have to see if I can track that down.
All right, thanks very much.
Yeah, I think on that, if you went down and inspected it now, I would think the liability would be much improved from what we currently have there with rebar sticking up and people cutting their feet on what's currently there. But I'll pass that to Director Frame for comment.
Yeah, so in Appendix B related to this project, there's a risk and insurance piece that speaks to, the surface texture and all of that stuff with respect to the actual ramps themselves. Because it would eliminate or sort of mitigate the concerns that are there now. I think from a risk perspective, it's actually a better thing. For the town from a risk management perspective. And we are looking at having railings. So specifically at the town dock or at the ALC dock location, there would be a railing on the one side and it would butt up against sort of the dock right now. At Camp Kitchen, there would be a railing on both sides. So.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up, then I'll get to Councillor Fitzgerald. I can't remember when it was presented. Is this going to be something that would be accessible as well? I can't remember.
So the intention, so the Camp Kitchen ramp, yes. And it will be wide enough and we'll have sort of a platform for anyone in a wheelchair to be able to turn around. The fact that there's railings is great. And it's not, right now there's tree roots there and everything. So it makes access to the water a little bit easier at Camp Kitchen. At the ALC dock location, because of the slope of the road getting down there, it's already not really an accessible location. So it wouldn't alleviate that. But certainly at Camp Kitchen.
Yeah, that makes me happy that we're improving access for accessibility to water. That's good. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison, and thanks, Rita. There's so much information. I love it. I think this is something that I definitely support. What's there currently is a risk, I think, right now to the public. I think all of our residents are going to be able to utilize this at different points and for different reasons. So I definitely support it.
Thank you, Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And just on a personal note, I've run out of that water doing a triathlon, and I know with the sleet that it's not a nice area to run out of. So yeah, it's this is going to be a great benefit. So, and I think in both locations as well. Yeah.
Great. And I know from surveys we've done, access to water has been something people have been asking for, and improved access to water. So this is great. And the fact that an outside entity is going to drive it for us, which is great. Any other questions on this motion? With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, moving on to item number 3, and this is the Conroy Park scoreboard, and I do have a motion. It is moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget, the Conroy Park scoreboard project for a cost of up to $134,400, funded by minimum community donations of $40,000, 15% from the recreational development charges of up to $20,100, and the remaining cost of up to $74,300 from the municipal accommodation tax reserve. And further, that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce town-funded costs. And further, that the Conroy Park scoreboard be added to the town's asset management inventory, and the annual replacement cost of up to $6,720 be added to Parks capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. And further, that annual Parks operating cost of $4,800 for inspection and maintenance be included in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. Riva?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Morrison. So this is one that we've heard a lot about over several years. And, you know, it's great that it came through this process. The initial application it included the cost of the scoreboard itself. It did not include the site works and the servicing and all of that stuff. So we had a little bit of homework that we needed to do with this. And we've gotten costing for all of the necessary pieces, and they're all detailed. All of the sort of phases of this project are detailed in Appendix C. We did go out with the scoreboard vendor and did a site visit there, and we talked about, you know, ideal locations for visibility and where normally should you be putting a scoreboard in the field for sun glare and all of that stuff. So it is in Appendix C. I think he had said southwest or the west part, and sort of the location that we've proposed close to the parking lot area by the courts off of Brunel is in the southwest location. So it's ideal for sun glare. We can get access to power there off of Brunel, and we have consulted with Lakeland Power about that and gotten some costing there. We do need to do a geotech assessment for the scoreboard man. That's a requirement for the installation of the scoreboard. They need that information. So all of those costs are included in this $134,400. In terms of the funding, so the community donations were what was proposed by the school board when they brought this forward. So we haven't changed that at all. We are able to use some recreation development charges, and the municipal accommodation tax reserve. So it does meet our funding policy from the MAT, in that it does provide a community benefit, and it does meet at least one of our strategic initiatives. So I'm available for questions.
Great. Pass out to Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison, and thank you, Director Frame. So the $48,000 in operation, it actually says the hydro costs related to the operation of the scoreboard are estimated to be approximately $4,800, as well as the operational costs. At the bottom of the ongoing operating cost is $4,800 a year. That includes the hydro costs, or is that what you're? Okay, so first, if I may, staff cost to update or to maintain it, is that included in the $4,800? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Reva. Can you remind me if the user group has already raised the 40K, or are they able to, or they anticipate to be able to raise that?
Through you, Chair Morrison. So without having access to their application right on hand, from my recollection, I think they have already raised 25,000, and they had another 15 that they were expecting to be able to raise. So which you know can be done throughout all of the other things that we need to do to get the site ready and everything. So there's lots of time to be able to do that.
And they'll know that that's part of the funding requirement. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Does this include like a housing area for the control panels for someone to actually operate the controls that gets locked and put away?
So there's actually a remote, it's like a Wi-Fi remote to control the scoreboard. So in our maintenance and operating considerations in Appendix C, They're about $600 per controller, and the scoreboard comes with 2 of them, so the town would maintain those 2. But the intention would be that we would provide the opportunity for the user groups themselves, so say the soccer club or the high school, to purchase their own controller, and we would maintain a list of those. So that, you know, people using the park all the time and needing access to the scoreboard, they automatically have access to do that.
Awesome. Good question. I mean, you think you're going to the hockey rink and there's a scoreboard, right? You see what's going on. I mean, mind you, soccer, there's not as many goals, but yeah, as a parent or a kid watching, Canada scores a lot. I think it's a huge value add. And now there's lacrosse there too. So for lacrosse, this would be huge. And even if you think of tournaments and everything else that could happen, I think it could be amazing and a bit of a jewel of the town. Any other questions on this motion in particular? With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Okay, moving right along to item number 4. Disc golf tee pads, and it is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget. Oh, sorry, I say who's the mover and seconder. Moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget the Evergreen Disc Golf Tee Pads project at a cost of up to $25,500, funded by minimum community donations of $10,000, and the remaining cost of up to $15,500 from the municipal accommodation tax reserve. And further, that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce town funded costs. And further, that the Evergreen Disc Golf Tee Pads be added to the town's asset management inventory, and the annual replacing cost of up to $1,275 be added to Parks capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. And further, that the annual Parks operating cost of $1,500 for maintenance be included in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. So, Reva.
So through you, Chair Morrison. So this is basically, it's for the installation of golf tee pads at the Macaulay Robertson disc golf course. The minimum donations of $10,000 was what was in their application, and the user group did say that they may be able to raise more. So they were being conservative in their estimate. So we are hoping that the town cost of $15,500 will actually be reduced, and we will work with them on that. The funding through the municipal accommodation tax reserve, again, it does meet our funding requirements through our policy, which is great. I think that's everything. I'm available for questions.
Mayor Alcock and then Councillor Stone.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. It's just a comment. I absolutely support this one. I would support it today if I could, but just because, you know, we rarely get an application from this particular user group, and it's accessible to so many people. I think it's a growing, as in their presentation, it's a growing sport, and what this does is improve the safety. So the fact that they can raise even $10,000 out of this ask, I think is phenomenal. So that's all I wanted to say. I think this is great.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock, and over to Councillor Stone.
So I fully support this. I think it's fantastic. I love playing there. The operating costs, the annual $1,500 maintenance fee. Once they're installed, they're installed. What operating costs are involved?
So in Appendix D, the disc golf, there is a maintenance section that talks about, right now, we can use sort of a riding lawnmower to kind of zip through there, right? With the golf tee pads, we won't be able to do that anymore, and we'll have to do leaf blowing and trimming and all of those additional maintenance activities around sort of the concrete, the cement, and the turf pads. So that is to get somebody to come in and do that.
Your eyes tell me you have a follow-up.
I don't know. I'm not buying it.
Tina, come on down, Tina.
Our Parks manager will come down and answer to this.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Tina, go ahead.
Okay, so maintenance. Alrighty, so there's what, 18 holes? 2 tee pads per hole. Getting on a riding lawnmower. Before we could just drive and off we go and cut. Now we're going to be stopping. We're going to have to trim around each because it's like cutting at your own home around your own fence and all that fun stuff. You just can't ride the lawnmower over top of it. And then we're going to have to turn around and leaf blow any grass that ends up on the pad itself. So there is some maintenance with it. There's always maintenance that comes with something, right? So we just can't run over stuff with a riding lawnmower. There is trimming involved. So right now the staff can just go. Once we start having with the maintenance side of things and stopping and trimming around the pads, now we're going to have to try to figure out how to put the trimmer with the lawnmower and hoping that we stay in the health and safety range of it all through the Ministry of Labor code and get through carrying all that items with us now. If you've been there, you will know that the course goes, it starts between the pipeline and the pickleball court, goes in down there around the pipeline, across the back of the soccer field, and then in behind the south soccer field up to, I believe, almost close to Marsh Road, is it? And then back into the bush line again and in behind the dog park. Then it goes across the road and in around Diamond F and comes out about Diamond A, Remington Field. So it is pretty big.
All right, I'll buy it.
Okay, that does make sense. I wonder sometimes, and maybe it's not even allowed, but if a user group, their volunteers could participate in some of that work, but I guess we probably wouldn't be allowed to have them on there with equipment and everything else.
So we do have an agreement with the disc golf people, but they are not allowed to use power tools.
That's the same policy my wife has for me at home. Councillor Fitzgerald?
First of all, I agree with your wife. Thanks, Chair Morrison. These are synthetic. I'm taking their rubber and with turf on top of them, and I guess it's for you.
For me. So my understanding, when they came to us, it was with the concrete pad and the turf on top. So we definitely do have to be careful when we are trimming that we're not cutting up that turf with it.
Okay.
And that's where the leaf blowing is going to come in.
And one follow up
Yep.
there, and I think this is probably for Riva. In the procurement proponent of this, I don't know if it applies to this, given the estimated cost of the project, 3 vendors, and by Ontario legislation. I think it seemed pertinent to the last Conroy scoreboard one, but maybe not this one.
Yeah, so through you,
Director
Chair
Fair.
Morrison, it's over 25,000, so that's why we need the 3 vendors. And the Buy Ontario, we are still figuring out what that looks like right now. So that you will see that in every appendix,
Okay.
because we're not 100% sure if it applies, so it may not, but we need to investigate further.
It seems like a really low number for us to have to go out for 3 different vendors.
So through you, Chair Morrison, we already have 2,
Yeah.
so.
Wow.
Great question. Any other questions on this item? With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you, Tina. Okay, and now we are at item number 5, project number 1 at McCully Robertson Recreation Park, Diamond B Screens. And we do have a motion moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Clark. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget additional sunshade screens on Diamond B at a cost of up to $14,000 fully funded from the Working Funds Reserve. And further that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce the town funded costs, and further that the additional sunshade screens be added to the town's asset management inventory and the annual replacement costs of up to $700 be added to parks capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration.
So through you, Chair Morrison, I think this one is relatively self-explanatory. We already have screens up at Diamond B. They're just not ideal right now. Too much sun is getting through, so we're having to double up the screens, and the user groups would like a bigger area covered because it is the sun shines in their faces when they're pitching in on that diamond. And in terms of operating costs, we could get it done within our existing operating budget because we already put up the existing screens that are there. So it would just be having the same sort of installation.
Okay, and it seems like it's long overdue. I've talked to some ball players that said absolutely it is needed. Any questions on this one? With none, I'll call the question quickly before our hand gets up. All those in favor? That carries. Okay, moving right along to item number 6. Project number 2 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park, additional parking. And this is moved by Councillor Stone, second by Councillor Fitzgerald. It is recommended that staff be directed to engage an engineering firm to perform a parking assessment in 2026 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park at a cost of up to $10,200, fully funded from the working funds reserves. And further, that staff report back after the 2026 municipal election with the findings and recommendations for next steps.
So through you, Chair Morrison, this is to address the perceived parking issue. I'm going to say perceived right now because we don't have enough information to truly assess whether it's a capacity issue in terms of the capacity is adequate, but we just need better delineation of the spots. We also, if the capacity is an issue, the intention of this parking assessment would provide sort of how and where could the parking be located if the capacity is inadequate, and the cost of what that additional parking would look like, because those options could be. I have no idea what those options could look like at this point. The intention of this recommendation is to get the parking assessment done this year. And because it's already the end of June, this year is like July, August, September is kind of our peak season at Macaulay. So we'd like to get it done sort of as soon as possible, so that we capture, okay, when the park is used at the most busy time of year, this is what we need for parking. That's kind of, I don't know if you wanted to.
Michael, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, I could. I apologize. I'm just getting over a cold here, so I sound a little stuffy. But yeah, just to second sort of what Riva said there. We were looking at this, and ultimately, we do have traffic counters of our own at the town, but it's not as simple as just counting number of cars in and out. As Riva had indicated, it's could be a matter of inadequate delineation for parking spaces. What the consultant is proposing is for sort of peak events that they would be out and doing these assessments, and it would include tournaments with baseball, tournaments with soccer, both of them together, different sort of peak time frames that these assessments would be done, and they would be done at half-hour intervals over a course of an entire day. So we would get a good idea, and it would also be done with a drone, so aerial imagery, so we could really see parking patterns, how they work, and where the shortcomings are of this parking, and the feasibility of whether we need more space or is delineation the remedy here. So it's not only looking at Macaulay, but also the adjacent roads, so William Street and Ravens Glen Crescent. Those are often utilized during tournaments, so it'd be nice to get sort of a comprehensive idea of how parking really works out there.
Okay, questions on this motion? Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair. On this one, I'm not prepared to spend $10,000 on a parking assessment in 2026. I'd be open to the assessment in the 2027 budget, but not 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Any other questions on this one? Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. How did we determine that the cost would be $10,200 for the assessment?
So we had engaged with the local engineering consultant, and we asked for a proposal, and that was what they had provided.
Thank you, Mayor Alcock and Councillor Remick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. And how do we propose to pay for the $10,000? Out of what funding?
Working funds.
It was working funds, okay. Because I know we talked about this, but I'm leaning towards not spending $10,000 on a parking study as well, even though I understand it needs to be done before. If you've ever been to the park during soccer and baseball, the parking is always bad. We know there's an issue there. Do we need to spend $10,000 to tell us exactly what the problem is? Like if it's parking, if it's, it's delineation. Can we not do that without spending that money?
So part of that $10,000 is not just saying there's an issue. It's saying this is how you're going to fix the issue. These are options for how to fix the issue, and how much those options are going to cost. So which is quite, a lot of work and not something that our staff have the capacity to do at this point.
And if I could just add as well, so part of that study would be a report, and it would indicate, it would identify the geographic limits of the parking areas, determine how much spaces can fit, how much parking is available. So we know that there's an issue there. We just don't know to what degree. Do we need an extra 50 spots? Do we need an extra 100 spots? Those are the challenges that, we can go in there and cram as many spots in as we can, but again, the problem is delineation, and then just figuring out how much are we short in parking or not. So it's we know there's a problem, just like we know there's no lighting out there. It's just a matter of quantifying the issue and being able to provide a solution that's going to last, now and for all the future uses of that park.
Okay. I'll go Deputy Mayor Armour and then Mayor Alcock.
Thanks very much. You might not be able to answer this. I'm just curious, is there a company out there that can do the parking assessment, the electrical assessment, and the lighting all at once and have $1 figure instead of breaking this into $17,000 for all these assessments?
So through you, Chair Morrison, that actually is the intention, and the proposal that we got was from an engineering consulting firm, that the intention would be to get all of these assessments done at once by the same firm who have the expertise in these areas to be able to do it. So this costing is actually getting the same consultant to do all of the pieces, but because each of the pieces were for separate projects, we wanted to split them out to allow council to make a decision on each one separately.
Okay, Mayor Alcock and then Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. I just want to say I support this recommendation. I think that you have to do the study, all of the work through this summer in order to inform the discussion that you will have in 2027. And so if you don't do it now, then you're putting off the whole decision by another year and all of that stuff. So I think this is really important to do, and I think it has to happen this year.
Okay, Councillor Schumacher.
Yeah, I guess that's my question. I'm kind of leaning towards no now and looking at it next year, but I'm guessing the costs for all of these studies end up going up for 2027 possibly versus doing it now.
Yeah, I would imagine that's the case with the cost of fuel and stuff always going up. But also it's sort of, this is a critical time if you're going to do this study. Otherwise, we're going to be waiting until this time again next year for. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that one? I'll just offer quick thoughts. I did bring it up at the agenda review. I'm not a fan of spending the money now. It's a non-budgeted item and we've passed the budget, and I know it's coming from a reserve. But I'd asked some questions about like delineation. We can't delineate on gravel. So if we're talking delineation, we're talking about paving it. And I can't see us ever spending the money that it would take to pave that. So I don't see delineation as ever being a viable option. So a lot of the money being spent on this review, if it's focusing on delineation, it would be a waste of money. And I think, I know we don't have the staff capacity right now, but we know there's a parking problem. And I think I'd be more focused on where can we build more parking? That's the solution. I don't think the solution is paving and delineating. So I'm not in favor of spending a non-budgeted item right now. I agree with Councillor Clark that it should be next year. But any other comments or questions on this right now? I'll call the question. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, and that does not carry. I don't know if I put a big X on this or how that goes. Okay, so, but I will thank staff for the time they put into that and their recommendations. Moving on to item number 7, which is project number 3 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park, parking lot lighting. It is recommended that staff be directed to engage an engineering firm to perform an electrical assessment for the existing parking lots in 2026 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park at a cost of up to $3,500. Oh, moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Mayor Alcock. Further, that staff report back after the 2026 municipal election with the findings and recommendations for next steps. So,
So through you, Chair Morrison. So I think this is fairly self-explanatory. It's looking at doing an electrical assessment of the parking lot, the existing parking lots at Macaulay, and what that would look like, providing options and costing. We don't have the expertise in-house to be able to do that.
very true. Any questions or comments on this one? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Just to explain, what is an electrical assessment? How many wires are there, or do they have to bring hydro in? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so there are, through you, Chair, there are a set of standards that are required for lighting. The consultant that we've engaged with has some experience with sports field. Oh, sorry, getting into the so there are some standards that need to be adhered to. And it is looking at what's available, what capacity is available out there, what they could, what would they need to bring in if the capacity isn't there, and then also lighting, pole placement, coverage of those proposed lightings, and making sure that everything is covered as per the standard.
It's essentially an illumination plan that they'll provide to us. Where does everything need to go and how much is it going to cost?
And probably decent value on that. Any other questions on this one? If not, I will call the question. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Deputy Mayor, yeah, Deputy Chair. Just a comment. I think it's almost like when people arrive to park, it's light out, right? I don't think the lighting is going to help them park any better. So it's really when people are leaving, and it doesn't always happen that it's dark when people leave, especially in the summertime. So I mean, it sort of speaks to the next one as well, the roadway lighting. I don't know if I'm in favor of spending money on something that I think eventually we will need it, but I don't know right now if it's, I don't think we need it right now.
Over to Councillor Fitzgerald.
I guess my concern would be if we do any work on this and then we add additional parking lots, have we met the lighting requirements when the parking lot stuff's going to change potentially? So I don't see any value in this either at this time.
Okay, and Councillor Fitzgerald, you're discussing deferring it until we address the parking is sort of your thought? Okay. Director Frame?
So to clarify with this specific item, it's to look at our existing parking lots and how we would like the existing parking lots. So I think we're constrained geographically of where we could expand those existing lots right now. So additional parking might not actually affect this work, just to clarify.
Yep.
If they're looking at electrical requirements, it very may well. So I would still stick with my original statement.
Okay, and just a comment I'd have on that, if at some point we identify other parking areas, could we then include that in the electrical assessment, right? We could. Okay. Any other questions, comments, Deputy Mayor Armour?
Just quickly, I believe through the deputation, it had to speak about at the end of games, basically baseball games. So 11 o'clock at night, they shut all the big lights off. The place turns completely black, except for the area where the canteen is. So I think that was the big concern the players had, was walking out to the cars in the dark and the health and safety issue of it.
That's a good point. And I guess to that point, we have to taking away the thought of the electrical assessment, because this is needed if we decide that we want to improve the lighting. So if we're thinking about that deputation and the safety and lighting, is that something we still want? And if we do, this would be a step. And do we want it now or do we want it later? Any other questions, comments? Anybody on that? Okay, with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Just one. All those opposed? And that does not carry. Oh, I did, but the record states that it does not carry. And I will now go to item number 8. So this is moved by, I have a motion moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. And this is regarding the project number 4 at McCully Robertson Recreational Park roadway lighting. And the motion is, it is recommended that staff be directed to engage an engineering firm to perform an electrical assessment for the existing roadway in 2026 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park at a cost of up to $3,100, fully funded from the Working Funds Reserve. And further, that staff be directed to report back after the 2026 municipal election with the findings and recommendations for next steps.
Thank you. So through you, Chair Morrison. So again, pretty self-explanatory, lighting on the roadway, electrical assessment for that one to be done this year. I'm available for questions.
Okay, similar item, similar discussion probably. Councillor Fitzgerald.
I'm just curious about the process here. We know we want lighting there. Is there another way we could put out the request where we don't have to be out of pocket $3,000 and put it up to the vendor to come with a proposal with their expertise and have the proposal, different proposals with their submission and price, and we haven't paid the $3,000 fee? It's the cost of doing business and bidding on it.
Director Frame.
So through you, Chair Morrison. So like sort of a design build of the roadway lighting. So I think we would need to budget for a specific capital project in 27. And I think that $3,000 would be included in the price of the project. So the way that we were kind of thinking of it was if we do the assessment, they'll give us the cost and everything to be able, because at this point, we don't know what that cost could potentially be.
No.
So it was kind of a, let's do the design work first and figure that out, what the cost is, and then council could decide, do you want to move forward with this project or not at that point, once we know what the costs look like.
Okay, I guess we've been down this road before, and the design consultant comes at us with costs, and they're out to lunch some of the time. If we come up with 3 vendors, design, build, say, we need lighting here, come and do your assessment, give us a bid. We're not.
It's a little bit chicken and egg situation, but I get what you're saying is if we agree we want the work done, we don't put a number on it because we don't know a budget item, and then we ask for bids, and then council could decide whether to move forward or not.
Yeah, if I may, there's several contractors that provide that service in Muskoka and further radius. If we put out a request, we'll get the bids. And if they're professional companies, which they're going to be because we vet all our bidders, right? And through the what do they call it, canoe, there'll be bidders that are pre-qualified there. And we've eliminated one step in the whole process, and we haven't spent $3,000.
Yeah, and I guess a question to Director Frame on that, if we put that out and 3 bids come in, are we obligated in any way to accept a low bid or accept one of the bids?
So I think, sorry, through you, Chair Morrison. I think part of why we didn't want to do the procurement first was because it's a lot of work to put a procurement out for something like that. In terms of going out and doing the actual procurement and getting bids, I'm going to have to volley it over to Director McKenzie about, are we obligated to then move forward?
So if we do go out and put a procurement out, I don't believe that we usually put it in there that we do have clauses to get out of it, but it creates bad faith in that community, and then people don't tend to bid when that happens. So you can definitely do it so that, and most of them we do that include a clause that we can get out of it.
And I agree with that. And we did have that environment created here 2 terms ago where we did ask for a lot of stuff and we didn't carry through with it. And that's not an environment I would want to create ever again. And I think that around this table, we all agree we need the lighting. It doesn't, I think we're acting in good faith when asking people to bid on it. We need the lighting. We're probably going to do the lighting, whether it's 27 or 28, depending on the cost and when we can budget for it. So I think we're going out with good intentions. and that we're not being, we're being straight up with asking for this. So, you know, and we may come up with 3 different designs, 4 different designs, and then which one is the best one? Well, then we get to determine. Sometimes you get one, and it's not the right one when you've got a consultant, because you're going and you're telling everyone, here's what we want. Well, someone with 10 years more experience may disagree and say, I think this would work better. So,
And I think as opposed to just a line item in the procurement, it would be more of a proactive approach to them, let them know that it'll be probably the next term of council making the decision. And if the numbers are reasonable, then it's something that could be accepted, but if it's not, it might not. Director McKenzie?
I was just going to add, rather than doing like a full procurement, you could also do another form of request where you go out and you're asking for an expression of interest, or like to get a request for information to see what people would propose. So you could do something like that, so it's clear the intention is to see what kind of ideas people can come up with, and then you can do the full procurement after that. So that's another option too.
Something to consider. And I think it was Councillor Clark next, and then Deputy Mayor Armour and Mayor Alcott.
Thanks, Chair. I would support Councillor Fitzgerald's idea if that's an option. If it's not an option, then I would want to see the assessment done in 2027 budget. Because as you know, I rarely support unbudgeted spends. This is not a big spend, but it's an unbudgeted spend, and that's the principle of the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Very quickly, my comment was, when we're doing this, can we just look at solar lights instead of electrical lights? That might be more efficient and better for our environment.
I like that. There's lots of sun out there. Yeah. Mayor Alcock?
Thank you. I also support Councillor Fitzgerald's proposal. I think it makes sense. And to Director McKenzie's comment about going through an REOI, we do that periodically. We have done it, so it wouldn't be new for us. So I think that makes a whole lot of sense. And actually, going that route, you might have a vendor that would come forward proposing solar lighting instead, right? So I think it's good.
I like it. Director Frame?
So through you, Chair Morrison, on the solar light idea, that is something that we had talked to the engineering consultant about, and something that they would have factored into costing and all of that stuff, and providing options that way. So it wasn't just a, this is what we propose. It's a, these are the options. What would you like to do?
Sounds good. Any other comments or questions? With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? Didn't expect many hands. And all opposed? Okay, and that does not carry. Okay, moving on now. Oh, sorry. Councillor Fitzgerald.
I do need to provide further direction, or just moving it forward to the budget process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll see it because it's still an item that's been requested about lighting. I think would we see it come back? So lighting project has been defeated, so somebody would have to bring it back for consideration down the road, a user group or
new business. But is this something we want to let slide for another period of time?
Well, I guess we go to
Or do we want to give some
Clerk
direction?
Boyes to see what a process would be. If somebody did want to put a motion on right now to have it considered for an REOI, is that something that could happen? Do you need 2/3 or how does that work?
Yeah, I believe we need a motion to reconsider that motion, and then someone can put forward an amendment if you have a desire to change that motion that was just on the table that we just voted on. Yes, it had. That's why we would need a motion to reconsider.
Okay, is anybody wanting to put a motion to reconsider on the table?
Is it a thing of urgency, the lighting there? Is my question to all of us, I guess.
I personally think with Councillor Clark's suggestion, it could wait till 2027. It is important. We could let the user groups know it is on our radar, but it's
That's kind of what I felt.
yeah.
Okay.
But it would have to be brought back somehow from someone, because right now it's not, no staff have been directed to even
As
think
new
about
business.
it as new business. So if it never comes back, it would never be reconsidered.
Thanks, Chair. So I guess we'll leave it to, will staff be able to let that user group know that that would be the process that they need to follow for 27? Thanks.
Yeah, and we let them know there's genuine interest, but we would like to do an RUI or something like that instead. Okay. So that's good. So now we are making sure that I'm on the right one. Number 9. Thank you for following along, Director Frame. There's a lot of stuff in here. So number 9 is Project 5 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park, the warning tracks. This is moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour, and I do have a motion. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration on the draft 2027 Mayor's Budget warning tracks for all 4 Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park baseball diamonds at a cost of up to $102,300, fully funded by community donations and or grants. And further, that the Huntsville Community Fund be authorized to collect community donations to support the Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park warning tracks for the purpose of supporting local baseball programming. And further, that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce town-funded costs. And further, that the warning tracks be added to the town's asset management inventory and the annual replacement cost of up to $5,115 be added to the park's capital contributions in the draft 2027 Mayor's Budget for consideration. And further, that the annual park's operating cost of $4,000 for maintenance be included in the draft 2027 Mayor's Budget for consideration. Director Frame.
So through you, Chair Morrison. So again, the warning tracks are something that we've heard on occasion over the last few years that was brought forward by various baseball groups. So the warning tracks are at a fairly steep cost and something that we felt, you know, this could be something that the Huntsville Community Fund could collect donations for, and we can absolutely look for grants. There's a ton of recreation grants out there. So we felt that it should be fully funded through grants and donations in order to move forward. So the addition of the replacement cost and the annual operating cost wouldn't happen until the installation happens, but this motion assumes that it would happen in 27, for example.
Any questions on this? Councillor Stone.
Thank you. So I love that it's fully funded by the user groups, or the people that like them. So what happens if only hypothetically 50,000 gets contributed and then we don't get any more? Are we obligated to go forward, or we just simply, where does that money go? It just sits there? Oh.
So through you, Chair Morrison. So with the Huntsville Community Fund, so once a donation has been provided, we can't refund it. Because they're charitable donations, they get charitable tax receipts and all of that stuff. And it's actually a separate organization that collects those. It's not the town of Huntsville. So they're generally with those donations, with those funds that are set up, those projects set up in the community fund, there is sort of a disclaimer saying that, you know, if it sits here for too long, then we can use it for other recreation type programs. So we would need to work with the baseball groups on coming up with some, you know, donation campaigns between the community fund and the baseball groups to really try and get those donations to come in. But because the user groups, the baseball groups, are not charitable organizations, they can't issue receipts. So this will allow donors to get charitable tax receipts back, which may make the process a little bit easier to get donations. That being said, too, I mean, it's $102,000. If we get $50,000 in donation, that's half the funding. And there's a ton of grants out there. So we would be actively, so in the motion, there is that we be authorized to apply for grants. So we would absolutely be looking for that, which could fund a large portion.
Okay, I just follow up quickly on that. I'll go to Councillor Clark. I guess on that note, two things. One, because there is no set date on that, could it just not sit allocated towards warning tracks until such time, even if it's 7 years from now, that it then meets the goal? And if now it's $110,000, we have to go ahead. And the second question is, if we get to 50,000 or 55,000, could we then install them on 2 of the fields to start? Because I know the hardball diamond is where it'd be most active. Is that something that could happen? And would that have to be amended to say that? Because right now, okay, is that something you could take care of?
So in order to take any of the funds out of the Huntsville Community Fund, we need council direction to do so. So we could do that as once we have enough to do one of the diamonds, we could bring that back and say, hey, we've got $25,000, we can do one of the warning tracks. this is what we would recommend, right? So we do monitor that Huntsville Community Fund to see how many donations we have. So that would just be part of that process.
Okay. Councillor Clark?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So just along the same lines, so if we include it in the draft budget and they aren't able to raise all the funds, they don't necessarily have to come back here. They can just continue to raise funds on an ongoing basis, and nothing really needs to happen here unless what Councillor Morrison mentioned, they want to use a portion of the funds.
Yeah, it would become a capital project in the budget, and it would carry forward as if it was, an incomplete project, right?
Okay, I like that. Any other questions on that? And keep in mind, we did have warning tracks at one point. Dan, you would know, there was warning tracks back in the day, but they were grown over, or let to grow over, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think the warning tracks just didn't have grass on them. There wasn't any special material or nothing. So I think it just became part of the regular field.
And if we do, it'd be the same material, I think, as what the pitching mound and the baselines are now. So if it'd be just one more little piece to add on, it's not something totally new. Any other questions on this motion? With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, moving on to item number 10. And this one is Project 6 at Macaulay Robertson Recreational Park, the water filling station. I do have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget an additional $10,000 funded from the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve for the Macaulay Robertson Washroom renovation project for the purchase and installation of a water filling station. And further, that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce town-funded costs, and further, that the water filling station be added to the town's asset management inventory, and the annual replacement cost of up to $500 be added to the park's capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. And further, that the ongoing park's operation cost of $1,000 for maintenance, winterization, and water costs be included in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration. And I just want to mention, at these and further, that's when the maintenance costs added, the detail of exactly what it is, I like that. It's just not a number, it says where it's going. For people like us, it's really helpful.
So through you, Chair Morrison, I am a huge proponent of transparency. So I did that on purpose. So this project, in April, when the user groups came forward, there was a separate motion specifically related to the washroom renovation at Macaulay Robertson. So this is to include this new amenity, a water filling station, as part of that project. And we did get quotes and costs for what it would actually cost to install and all of the water lines and everything. And, for winterization, the ongoing operational costs of it. So this is what realistically we think needs to be included. In terms of the funding, we are proposing to be funded through the MAT reserve, and it does meet our MAT funding principles policy. So I am available for questions.
Councillor Clark, then Councillor Renwick.
Thanks, Chair. Reva, question. So this is municipal water, right? Okay.
Okay, and our award-winning municipal water that Dan Armour mentioned the other day. Councillor Renwick?
Thank you. Along the same lines, I thought it was district. There is a district water hookup, but it's not potable water, you're saying? What we have is potable water, but there was another hookup by the soccer fields that was just like a hose that can, yeah, that was district water. And you're saying that's not potable water, or there's a test. Yeah. That's what we used to drink.
Manager Tina will come up and talk about.
Through you, Councillor Morrison. Okay, so how Macaulay works. We have water and sewer that comes down. Actually, the sewer kind of stops at the top of the hill. So Macaulay, Ball Diamond, and Soccer Field are actually on a septic. The water line of the district comes down the road to the soccer building, you are correct, but that's to go into our irrigation. So that's for our irrigation, so that's where the backflow is, underground, nobody can drink out of it. Okay.
We used to drink.
For us to have our water put on at Macaulay, we do have to have backflows on everything, which has come out in the last couple of years. With the Ball Diamond, we have cement bunker around the building there. That is where all the water comes in, and that's where the water all has its backflow. And that is where the water comes from for the bathrooms at the soccer building. So it runs between Diamond B and Remington Field, down to Diamond F, across the road, under the road, to that soccer building. So all of that water has a backflow. It does get tested. It is on a meter, and we can drink it. The stuff that's in the ground, so back in the day that you'll hear about, we used to be able to drink everywhere. We're not allowed to do that no more. You can't drink out of a hose anymore. I hate to break it to you. You can do it at home. You just can't do it on municipal property. So that is where this is coming from. And so when you are at Macaulay running around, it is very hard to fill up your Yeti bottle in those bathrooms because the sink are only so big. So this is a great idea to have at a sports field, is having a water bottle fill up. Hope that answers your question.
That's a lot of great information, Tina. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Quick question for Tina while she's here. Can you not put a sign up saying, don't drink the water, wink, wink?
Make sure you have the wink wink on it. And remind people what we used to do when we were kids. Any other questions on this, Councillor Stone?
I just have to say, $10,000 is a lot of money to fill the water bottle. I know at Arrowhead Park, for example, they have the water spouts. You push it, and it runs for 20 seconds and then turns itself off. It would achieve the same goal, but I don't know. We always seem to be getting the, I was not going to say the most expensive, but, well, I don't know. I would like us to think outside the box and maybe do things cheaper when we can. It just seems like a whole lot of money.
So I guess in that to Riva or Tina, is there a cheaper option to
hook up a
accomplish the
garden
same goal?
hose that you can drink from?
So, the way that all of these motions have been worded is to provide sort of the maximum cost. So we have not gone through all of the required procurements that we need to go through. And where we can save money, we absolutely will save money. So this is worst case scenario. Just to be clear.
Okay, so I would say to that, that's great. And I think based on Councillor Stone's comments, having 2 to 3 different options that accomplish the same goal would be good, right? And deciding which one is effective. I will say from having coached a lot at the Summit Center, the trainer's job is always to go to the really cool water fill up. They fill up all the water bottles for the kids until they're old enough to do it on their own. And it doesn't really have that out at Macaulay right now. And it's hotter, right? You're outside in the heat. So this is a great thing to do. But I agree, if we can do it the most cost-effective way, it makes sense. Councillor Renwick.
Sorry, just a quick question. Is it inside the building or outside the building? Outside, thank you.
Okay. And for all those parents baking in the sun, watching their kids, and if they're watching soccer, their kids are picking flowers and doing somersaults and whatnot when they're young. Been there. Any other comments on this one for now? I will call the question. All those in favor? And that passes with a half hand from Councillor Stone. Okay. And now we're going to item number 11. Doing good. Okay. Item number 11 is the Lakewood Park Shoreline Restoration. I do have a motion moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Stone. It is recommended that staff be authorized to enter into a shoreline restoration agreement with the Lake Vernon Association for the Lakewood Park Shoreline Restoration Project starting in 2027. And further, a financial contribution to the Lake Vernon Association for the project's net costs up to $10,800, fully funded from the town's portion of the municipal accommodation tax.
So through you, Chair Morrison, this is an operating project. It's something, so the Lake Vernon Association has done a number of shoreline restoration projects, but not on public property yet. So this would be one, we would enter into an agreement with them. They would have the appropriate insurance and they would pay the vendors and they would handle the entire project. we would fund the net costs of the project. So we would work with them. They'd have to provide us with copies of their, what other revenue did you get? What did you pay and expenses, all of that stuff. And we would provide the net cost up to $10,800 in conversation with the Lake Vernon Association. They are actively looking for grants for this project to be able to reduce that net cost. So the $10,800 is worst case scenario.
Yeah, they were a very organized and passionate group, so I believe that will be the case. Any questions or comments on this one? With that, I will call the question. All those in favor? And it carries. Okay, moving on to item number 12. This is regarding the outdoor lighting at Macaulay Robertson South Soccer Field. Back to lighting. Small break, but we're back at it. And we have a motion moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. It is recommended that staff be directed to engage an engineering firm to perform an electrical assessment in 2026 for Macaulay Robertson South Soccer Fields at a cost of up to $4,700, fully funded from the Working Funds Reserve. And further that, staff report back after the 2026 municipal election with the findings and recommendations for next steps. Director Frame.
Thank you. So through you, Chair Morrison. So the Huntsville Soccer Club brought forward this request. It was a multi-phase request. So the first stage was the Macaulay Robertson Recreation Park, the South Soccer Field lighting. The second was Conroy Park, and we'll see that recommendation next. Staff do not have the expertise to be able to assess soccer lighting. So the intention, because I know they were very excited about trying to move this forward in 2027. So the intention was to have the study done in 26 so that we could get the proposed costs and all of that and bring it back in time to get it into the budget. So that we could actually hopefully install something in 27. I am available for questions.
Okay, Councillor Schumacher.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, the way this is worded for 2026, I'm not prepared to do it for 26, but I'm prepared to do it for the budget of 27. If I say no, are we defeating number 12 completely, or 12 and 13 will go to 27 budget regardless?
So through you, Chair Morrison, I would imagine we would have to amend the motion. If you still wanted to do it, but do it next year, we would need to amend the motion to make that work.
Okay, Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. This is the one time I would say that I would agree to have this done in 2026, only because, and this is a deviation from the budget, is because the soccer club has waited so long for this to happen, so long. And I don't think $5,000 operating costs, if we have to spend that this year, I think it's completely worth it in order for this group to finally have lights on that facility area, because they have not had lights, and they have been asking, and it's all, baseball gets a ton of stuff. Soccer needs lighting, and the World Cup is on right now, people. Let's support soccer. So I'm okay with this. I would definitely in favor of this.
And I will say, after the World Cup, we're probably going to see a big boost in kids wanting to play soccer. Councillor Stone, then Mayor Alcott.
So I agree with Councillor Renwick. They waited so long, and more importantly, in my mind, they have proposed that they will be buying these lights to put in, or a huge portion of those lights. So I think this is something I really want to see go forward.
Mayor Alcock.
Thank you. I just want to echo what Councillor Renwick and Councillor Stone said. I support this completely.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Clark.
Well, I agree with Councillor Schumacher on this one and the next one. There's budget process, and this wasn't part of it, and so here we are again for a non-budgeted request. There's no way around that. I would support it, but in 2027, and then the process begins at that point, which would give a starting point for a project that has been put off.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks very much. Just to follow up with that, I think by the time we did a lighting assessment this year, they probably aren't going to move forward with any lights. So could you start it early in the spring of 27 and then start the lighting process for the 27 season?
Yeah, I think that that could be done. We just have to get approval from council, and we can start that process.
Okay. and not sure where this will go, but I will say if it does get deferred, I would definitely want communication with the soccer club to know that we want them to have lights. My personal comments, I don't want non-budgeted items. However, this is a bit different than the others. This is for a field of play. It's for youth, and it would increase our rental revenue and our usage and getting kids outside. And I think we're going to see a massive spike in soccer usage. So it's a little bit different. But if they can do it, if it gets deferred and we can still make sure they can hit their timelines, then that's something to consider. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks very much. I think we just need to change the timeline. Assessment in 2027 for Macaulay Robertson.
Yeah,
So
to
then
be
it will-
considered in the 2027 budget, right? Yeah.
Actually, no, actually to have it
Just have it done in
have it
2027.
done in 27 from working funds.
Yeah, and it's not hitting the levy.
It's not
right?
in the levy.
Director Frame?
So to be clear, so this recommendation relates to the electrical assessment, so the illumination plan for the soccer field. We don't know what the costs are going to be for actually installing the lights. That's part of this whole assessment. So we can't actually budget for that project in 27. It would likely be an in-year report back to say, this is what it's going to cost, this is how we could fund it. So it would be outside of the 27 budget process because we don't have those numbers right now. So it would either be in the 28 budget or an outside of the budget report for next year.
If I may.
Absolutely.
When the soccer club came and did their deputation, they actually had numbers, I believe. I don't know how accurate they were, but they talked about using, I think it was park funds for the other portion of their, well, I think they were going to fund 50%. They wanted 50 from the park, the reserve, I believe is what they said.
So the costs that were provided were not based on any sort of illumination plan. It was an estimate. There were no quotes provided from any engineering companies or lighting companies or anything like that. So I honestly don't know how accurate the costing was that was provided. And the funding for the lights was, I think they had mentioned 60,000 per field. So, if we're looking at, say, Diamond F lighting as an example, or Selkirk Diamond lighting, that was a couple $100,000 or a few $100,000. So it's going to be a very big number, which is why we wanted to do the assessment, because I would prefer not to bring that outside of the budget process. Which is why we were trying to get it done this year so we could get it into the 27 budget process.
Okay. It all makes sense. Any other questions or comments on this one? Councillor Fitzgerald.
They have been waiting forever. In order to commit to them for 27, I can support this.
Okay. I don't see any other hands, so I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And that carries. Congratulations to the soccer club. And now we are going to item 13, which is the outdoor lighting at Conroy Park. And I do have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Mayor Alcock. And it is recommended that once easement layouts and electrical servicing have been confirmed in 2027, staff be directed to engage an engineering firm to perform an electrical assessment for Conroy Park at a cost of up to $5,000, fully funded from the Working Funds Reserve. And further, that staff be directed to report back in 27 with the findings and recommendations for next steps.
So through you, Chair Morrison, this is kind of tied to the scoreboard request, where we are looking at bringing in power into certain areas of the park. So until that can be done, it really doesn't make sense to look at installing lights because we know we don't have the electrical capacity there at this point to do that. So this recommendation is once that service is done for the scoreboard and we've confirmed sort of where the electricity is available at the park, then we would do that electrical assessment, having all of that information because the engineer is going to need that. And then once we do that electrical assessment, the illumination plan, we would report back to say, this is the recommended, next steps, whether that's, and that will likely be in a future budget. It likely won't be able to get done in 27. But we would have, recommended funding sources and sort of timing of when that could potentially happen to reiterate, this was phase 2 of their request. Macaulay really was really where they wanted lighting first.
Okay, go to questions, but quickly, if we were to do an amendment to have this brought for consideration in the 2027 budget, that could be done. Like this motion could be amended as such. You think? But I think we're waiting anyway, but it's given direction to do it.
So, sorry, through you, Chair Morrison. So this would be that we would include the $5,000 in the budget for 27. And that way we would be able to do the scoreboard project and all of that stuff, bring in the electrical, all of that, potentially if it's finally approved in the budget. And then we would look at recommendations and next steps once we have the costing for what the lighting would look like in Conroy. So it would be likely that it would go into a future budget, the actual installation of the lighting.
Okay, yeah, just like the wording now is saying directed to do it as opposed to consider it, right?
The
Directed to engage at a cost fully funded. It doesn't say consideration, it says to be done. So I just want to make sure that's clear as people are considering it. Yeah. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just a question, and I guess it relates back to Conroy Park. So, and maybe perhaps this is for Michael to answer, but do we not know where the electrical power is underneath that? Like, it's not that old. So there must be some document that says where the power is.
Yeah, so through you, Chair, we do know where we have electrical servicing at the building that's there. The problem with Conroy Park is there are a series of easements. So it poses a challenge when bringing in servicing because we can't necessarily just cross those easements. I wish we had a diagram here, but it sort of limits where we can bring electrical in for the different applications.
Just sorry, explain to me what the easements are. Like, are they? Not without.
Yeah, so
Water and sewer district.
There's a district easement, and I believe there's another easement that is to facilitate servicing. I guess we don't have any diagrams of the.
No, well, I guess that's my question though. When we built that facility, when we put the field there, we knew where the easements were. So, my question again: do we not know where the electrical is? Sorry.
Sorry, through you, Chair Morrison. So we know where the electrical is. The issue is we can't cross the easements to get the electrical. So the electrical is within a specific area of the park where the building is right now. We can't put the electrical, we can't cross that easement with the electrical lines. So we can't get power to the other ends of the park. So that's why for the location of the scoreboard, we need to look at bringing power in from Brunel Road, because in order to get power in the scoreboard location, we'd have to cross one of the easements. So it's a weird legal thing.
So
Okay, Councillor Fitzgerald.
thanks. Yeah, the easement was for water and servicing the development, which was overlooked a long time ago. You can get an easement over an easement though. I know it's complicated, but it is doable. And who knows how much power it's going to cost coming in from Brunel, but I can't see it being ridiculous. So why try and cross an easement when it's probably easier to bring it from Brunel?
Yeah, and the easements are sort of laid out in such a way that they're bisecting the field. So lighting and everything would sort of have to be, initially when we were looking at the scoreboard, we were thinking of pulling power from there. But again, you'd be crossing an easement, and yeah, there's two easements that sort of bisect the field. So servicing has to be broken up separately, and creates a challenge for.
Okay, I do know the district easement is on the right side going by the tennis courts, kind of cutting off an angle of that. And I do know there's potential of the development in behind to draw water and sewer off of Forbes Hill Drive going up, which might alleviate the need for that easement at some point, which could be something to consider down the road. Not that the district would get rid of the easement, but it's something that might be coming down the pipe. No pun intended. And I wonder on this, if we know where the easements are, we know where the electrical is and how big the service is. If we went out to get lighting done through an REOI or a tender, could we not say, this is what we need and this is your constraints on the land? And then they figure out where they can put it as opposed to us paying $5,000 to figure it out for them.
So again, the intention of kind of doing it this route and getting sort of a plan and options brought forward to us was so that council wasn't committing to a project necessarily before we knew what the options were and what could be done there. We could do an expression of interest or request for information, but we were trying to kind of do it in stages to rather than saying, okay, let's just go out and commit to this project when we don't necessarily know if we can financially commit to that project yet.
So it's fact finding and information gathering. Okay. Councillor Stone.
So lighting on that field, I think we're several or many years out from putting lighting there. I'm not prepared to support 5,000 or any other number right now.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
I'm not sure if anybody can answer this, but we had a report, I believe, many years ago about Conroy having lights come in there. And I think we did some public consultation too, or we had deputations here about lighting up the areas. Anybody remember that?
Remember the public pushing back.
The reason I say that, I just wonder if there are any studies done back then, but obviously not if you didn't find them, right?
Okay. And Deputy, I wasn't here at the time, but was that when the soccer club had found lighting that they were going to get donated?
They had lighting and poles, et cetera, that they were
Okay.
trying to give to us. But
Anyone want to comment on that? Thanks, okay. Maybe it was a simple request and a denial at the time. Any other questions or comments on this, Director Maxwell?
I was just going to say that we can look it up if you want to be.
Do we want to pause to look it up or should we call the question?
I think it was just for information. You can call the question.
Let's report back to Deputy Mayor Armour with that information for his nighttime reading tonight. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor of going ahead with the $5,000? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed? So that 4-3 carries. Am I correct on that?
Did you vote?
I thought I only voted in a tiebreak as chair. Okay. Then I would vote against, and it's 4-4, and it's defeated. It'd be 5-3, sorry. Yeah, 5-3. Okay. Well, oh, there's 4 in favor and 4 against. Yeah, correct. 4-4. The mayor's math is better than mine on this one, so trust Mayor Alcock on her numbers, not Councillor Morrison. Okay, so now we are moving on to item number 14, the Hunters Bay Trail Pedestrian Bridge. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Councillor Clark. It is recommended that committee approve for consideration in the draft 2027 mayor's budget, the construction of an additional pedestrian bridge on Hunters Bay Trail at a cost of up to $30,600, fully funded from the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve. And further that staff be authorized to apply for grant funding to reduce town funded costs. And further that the pedestrian bridge be added to the town's asset management plan inventory, and the annual replacement cost of up to $1,530 be added to Parks capital contributions in the draft 2027 mayor's budget for consideration.
So through you, Chair Morrison, the installation of a pedestrian bridge over this section of trail is something that we've kind of been talking internally about outside of this user group process. It is sort of a known area with water issues. So it is something that I the group felt that was important to move forward. We would absolutely, and there are definitely grants available through the Trans-Canada Trail that we are absolutely looking at pursuing for this, and would be open to donations from any group that comes forward as well. We're not going to say no to a donation for this. So considering that this was brought forward specifically by community members and not a recognized organization, that's why we worded it in such a way that, it's fully funded right now through the Municipal Accommodation Tax Reserve, which does meet our funding policy. And we will be looking at reducing that price tag through grants and all of that. So.
Great. We'll go to Mayor Alcock and Councillor Stone.
Is this a metal bridge or a wooden bridge? I'm hoping it's a wooden bridge and it's a very expensive one.
Sorry, through your chair. So this bridge structure would continue the existing one that's there. So it's a series of timber, like rail ties almost as a sort of as support, and then a wooden deck on top.
So it is wood. It's a very expensive wooden bridge. Okay.
Mayor Alcock?
Thank you, Chair Morrison. I think Councillor Stone sort of, I would have said it differently, just saying. I absolutely support this project and the fact it's been considered in the 27 budget, that's all good. But I was curious how we got to the 30,600. It did also seem a bit high to me, but it's an essential project because you lose accessibility on the trail if we don't do it. So kudos on the project, but the price seems high.
Yeah, so this cost was given to us by a single contractor. If you're looking at the photos there where you see that flooding, the bridge is actually going to traverse a further distance than just that. So it can be, it doesn't really, the flooding does get a lot worse than that. And we were looking to ensure that there is continuity between the existing structure that's there and then further down the trail. So the span would be much more significant than what you would imagine for that wet spot there.
I think so. Through you, Chair Morrison, the initial proposal for the pedestrian bridge here had it, with helical piles and all kinds of other like super engineered bridge, which was more than double what we're looking at right now. So we were looking at like this is a significantly reduced option that will provide us essentially with the same level of service to the community. So we are absolutely looking at ways that we can reduce and do things as fiscally responsible as possible while getting the service that the community needs there.
Okay, Councillor Clark and then Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair. I realize nothing's ever as simple as it seems, but so here's a simple question. Like, could not a culvert be installed in this particular area to deal with the water issue?
We did look at an option there as well for a culvert. Like you said, nothing is ever that simple. It would include a bunch of grading that may or may not go into, impacts to the MTO corridor. So also it becomes sort of a maintenance issue. If you just have, a culvert with some granulars on top, it tends to wash away over time, and we're out there, we'd be maintaining it. It happens on other sections of the trail as well. So we thought this would be a good, a good sort of middle ground between the over-engineered helical pile approach and the culvert, and it ensures that we're not out there allocating resources to maintenance and things like that.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Armour and then Councillor Fitzgerald.
That was an excellent answer to my question.
Over to Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Morrison. Thanks, I can read, but I know it's not easy. So I get updates from the Trans-Canada Trail. I donate to the Trans-Canada Trail, and I read about how they spend money and donate money to fix, repair, extend, maintain the trail. Are there any opportunities there for us?
Yeah, so through you, Chair Morrison, 100%, and we are actively looking at their grant. They have a lot of different grant funding streams, and you can stack them, you can apply for them at the same time for different projects. There's a lot of things that they are very, very good to deal with in terms of funding for improvements on the trail. So 100% we are already engaging with them on a number of other things.
Yeah.
So yes, we will be looking at that.
To follow up, you think that if we came at them with a number and said we need this to have spring and high level water access or heavy precipitation periods access, that they'll probably maybe help us out with some funding?
So I can't speak to their funding decisions, but we are certainly going to ask.
it's a prime example of what I see them supporting in their communications to me, so.
Great. Mayor Alcock, then Councillor Renwick.
I just a comment on that. Just so everybody knows, we did apply for Trans-Canada Trail funding and received a whole bunch of it when we did the extension, to the tune of a few $100,000. So they've already done it. They will. I have no doubt that our application will be looked at favorably because it'll be a very good application.
Great. Okay, so I have Councillor Renwick and Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. Just quickly, we don't We don't do any winter maintenance on this, do we, Tina?
Through you, Chair Morrison. So this section of the trail, it's closed when the first snowfall start to come, because it does go underneath Highway 11, which the MTO in the agreement has asked for it to be closed during winter months, just so that snow coming off the highway doesn't hit anybody underneath. So no, it does not get maintained.
No, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, and well, Tina's in the chair there. Just more, I guess, a comment from the accessibility piece, and I know Tina talked about this, like trying to make sure that trail is one of our more accessible trails throughout. When we do our accessibility booths, that is one of the things that we get constant conversation about, is the ability for people to access trails in Huntsville, and that, like, Ferry Vista's maybe one, and then because it is paved in portions, and then Hunters Bay Trail. I guess one question though is, if we do end up with like the washouts, or I know Deb has said a few times she's gone to where the, dock part is and then the ramp is broken or not accessible, do we post signs that if there is an issue with a certain section somewhere, do we post saying, this, you can only get so far today, kind of thing?
So through you, Chair Morrison. So with the trail itself, we do inspect it, but it's not an every day, and it's not every week. So when we do go down, we try to make it down there at least when we do the garbages or every day, but when we get down into the trail, it's not an every day or every week. We try to make it every week, but it doesn't 100% always work. When we do see some caution, we do put caution tape. If it ends up being a flood, we do try to put caution tape or close the gates and put signage saying trail is closed. We did have an emergency bridge this year, broke. We did put some signage up, but somehow they ended up in the water floating away, or everybody likes to move stuff when it's, doesn't in line with them. So we do try our hardest. Every year before we do open up that portion of the trail, we do inspect it, and we do add any asphalt or material that's needed in those areas, especially where the bridge is. With the ramp down by the lake, it's very hard, especially with the water levels. They are floaters, so they will move up and down with the water levels. Right now, as you can see, the water levels are still up high, so it's not a great gradual going down, but it's out of our control of fixing that.
And I
makes
guess
sense.
just follow up to Riva, is there a way maybe with communications or something that we can sort of post some trail updates or whatever if there is an issue that we're known of, or a length of time, I guess, that there would be a fix?
So, yeah, I mean, if there's a known issue and we get that information from our lovely Parks Department, I mean, we can certainly post things on our website and through social if needed, which is something that we do. Like if our elevator is down at Town Hall, for example, we post right away and put it on our website. So I think it would be a similar service disruption type of thing. So yeah, we can work on that together.
Okay, and I believe Deputy Mayor Armour was next.
Thanks very much. My question is actually for her worship, because I can't remember. Was there not money at the district level for trail systems that we accessed once? I just can't remember the name of the
We
fund.
did. It was from the Active Transportation Fund, and it was a one-time because it was the first time any of the 6 municipalities had applied to that fund. And we had to argue on numerous occasions as to the applicability of that fund to this project. But it would not, as my understanding, I think, Deputy Mayor, that was a one-time. And I don't think we'd be able to go back for ongoing maintenance. This was to support the trail extension, which was a new project. So there's a distinction.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Just thought maybe another avenue for money.
Okay, Tina would like to say something.
Through you, Chair Morrison, I just want to make it clear to council that with the amount that you've seen, just so you have a better understanding, is in this area, everything has to be barged in. So it can't come in from the beginning of the trail, it has to be all barged. So your equipment, your material, everything is all in by barge.
It's good to know. Can't use an ATV in a trailer, I suppose. It's pretty narrow there. Any other questions on this? The only other comment, I'd like to make a comment for those kind of applauding the pioneers that built this out and those who were on council at the time. It is one of the most heavily used assets we have. It is beautiful. I know there was Don McCormick and the Rotary, and there's many names I'll miss, so I don't want to forget, but everybody uses this. Dog walking and everything else. It's amazing. You go there now at the boardwalk and it's a bunch of high school kids hanging out and having fun. It's just great to see. So kudos to everybody who was involved way back in the day. I will call the question on this. All those in favor? And that carries. And thank you, Tina. Okay. Finally, we are at the last item for our division. And it is recommendation number 15, Tyland Park water access improvements. And I do have a motion moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. It is recommended that committee deny the construction of a new pedestrian path and water access at Tyland Park. And I'll pass it off to Director Frame for explanation.
So thank you, through you, Chair Morrison. So as many of you will probably remember, the community members did come forward in April of 2023, actually a little bit before that, but the decision was made by council in April of 2023 to create the new Echo Bay Parkette at the end of South Ferry Lake Road, rather than provide water access at Tyland Park. So that there were the two locations, and council decided to go with Echo Bay Park. We did just install that last year, and there is some landscaping that needs to happen still in 2026. But it's about, a block away from Tyland Park. And the cost of that park was about $135,000 to create that. And we would be looking at something very similar cost-wise to provide that a similar level of access at Tyland Park. The slope there is very steep. There is a drainage pipe kind of right in the middle of where the water access is. And I think it's important to note too that, over the last several years, we've done a lot of investment throughout other water access points in Huntsville, and those are all listed in Appendix I in the report. We also have our Parks and Trails Master Plan coming out shortly. We are in the midst of working on that, which does speak to water access points and waterfront locations, which is why, the working group couldn't recommend at this point moving forward with water access at this point, at this location.
All right. Any questions or comments on this motion? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thank you. I don't want to carry this on much longer, but I actually would like to approve this. I think it's something that area's been needed for a long time. They keep coming to us year after year. We all rave about our waterfront and our access to it and how people can have a great time, yet we have a perfect access here due to a pipe. But even opening up the trail so people can walk down through there, because right now people are carrying kayaks and canoes, et cetera, down through that bush line to try and get on the water. So I don't know how that falls under liability, but I would like to see at least more investigation into it, just not leaving with a big denial.
Okay, so on that point, would you like to propose an amendment to the motion?
I'd like to amend the motion to the fact that we continue with investigation on this and report back.
Okay, so would I then, Jessica, then deal with a potential amendment now or have more discussion on the original motion first? If there's a seconder.
Yeah, if there's a seconder, then you'd have a discussion on the amendment.
Okay, so as a point of process, I think I would ask if there's a seconder, and Councillor Clark would second. And then if Deputy Mayor Armour and Jessica want to work on some wording, then we can discuss the amendment and then go back to the main motion. I'm doing that right. And then could Mayor Alcock speak to the original motion now as a point of process, or would you have to wait? I think she's going to speak to the amendment, so I think we can get the amendment done. Now, do you want a 5-minute break to do the amendment? And a bio break? She's already got it? Amazing, great. No break needed.
Not quite, not quite. Approve. I don't know. This is what I came up with. but-
Okay, so it's on the screen, and this is a motion to amend, moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Clark. It is recommended that committee approve additional research into the construction of a new pedestrian path and water access at Tyland Park, and further that staff report back in 2027 on the results of the research. Now I'll open up to comments on the amendment, and I'll go to Mayor Alcock first.
Thank you, Chair Morrison. I think it's good. I wanted to look at the amendment. On this one, I wanted to comment earlier. I had a wonderful tour with both Reva and Tina and went to all of the different sites for each of one of these proposals. It was really very helpful. And on this one, I was reminded and of all of the time and effort that we put into consultation around these two sites, very close to each other. And we as a council determined that we would go forward with the one site that Reva referred to, that we spent 100 and whatever it was. And it's a wonderful access point. And so I was ready to support the denial of this. Having said that, I understand and in fact, when we were there, I saw people going down to the revitalized site that we spent a whole bunch of money on. It's great having opening up access points to water for sure. I think the part of the recommendation today was we're expecting our Parks and Trails Master Plan to be reported on in the near future. I forget when you said, Reva, sometime in this fall. So I think the proposal, Deputy Mayor, of considering this as we consider the Parks and Trails Master Plan is not a bad one, right? So I'm basically coming around to saying I support what you're proposing, further discussion, not shutting this down completely. And if you consider it in light of all of the other things that will be part of that master plan, that's probably not a bad idea. So I think I'm supporting it. The one thing I was going to ask was, are you considering this as part of the 27 budget process as all of the other ones, or this is just, we need to continue to consider this?
I don't feel comfortable shutting the door on it, right? Because I think there's potential there still. I know we'd spin around the table here a few times, and I'm not saying we're going to put in a 40-foot dock or add stuff like that. It's just that access point. And people are using it now, going down through those trees. They're cutting trees down themselves, some of them. So I think if we're going to have it open, I know probably has to do with accessibility is probably another issue that it falls under, but I think there's ways around that also. But I just don't want to shut the door on it.
So if I may, just it's sort of to follow up on that then, and maybe I would pose this question to Reva or Tina. Would it make sense to say, as part of our Parks and Master Plan discussion, that's where we keep it open, we keep it alive, but we consider it as part of that? I don't know, it's an option. Does that make sense? I'm looking.
I personally think it does make sense to maybe just put some wording in there to be considered as part of the upcoming parks. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And then staff could look into different layers of how it fits into the Parks Master Plan, but then it's not gone forever. Director Frey?
Yeah, so since we're actually still in the process of developing, we have not yet seen the draft of the Parks and Trails Master Plan. I wonder if this is something that we could be directed to incorporate into the Parks and Trails Master Plan rather than, you know,
That's a
doing
good
all the
idea.
investigation and staff reporting and all of that stuff and bring it back in 27. Maybe we incorporate, you know, the sort of intention of council to look at water access points, not necessarily, I don't know if it's this location specifically you'd like them to consider and what could be done there. Or,
Yeah, just as I said, I just don't want to shut it down because they'll come back again, probably next year, asking for the same thing. So we need to make sure we got all our ducks in a row
Mhm.
and do everything we can, do our due diligence, basically. I know we probably feel we've done it before, but they're going to keep, user groups are going to keep coming back. And this is a perfect access for some of those people who live along that area, instead of having to carry their kayak all the way down around to Ferry Avenue.
Okay. I don't know if Director Frame wants to address that or go to Mayor Alcock first.
Thank you. I think it could be as simple as directing that, I mean, the Parks and Master Plan, as you said, is coming back in the fall. So it's just directing that this be considered as part of that, because then it's on the table once again for discussion. And we're not defeating it. It's part of that larger discussion. And I think if we direct it to be part of it, then that will keep it open. Right?
I think, sorry, through you, Chair Morrison, I think as part of the Parks and Trails Master Plan, once we have the draft in hand, the intention is to do public consultation on that as well. So if this is part of that, then, you know, we would have that sort of as part of our public consultation, as part of the whole master plan process. And they are looking at all of our water access points, not just one specific location. So, I mean, it would be all encompassing and sort of a strategy with respect to our parks and trails moving forward is essentially what that is.
I can definitely support that.
Okay.
If you need a motion,
Okay. Sorry. Breaks. Okay, so yeah, so Councillor Armour, Deputy Mayor Armour, would you like to withdraw your previous motion?
yes, withdraw the previous motion.
With the intention that we're going to do a motion to substitute and expand on it by including some information about the Parks and Trails Master Plan. Yes?
Or if that's the case, we would
And
take
then-
5 minutes, but we could also,
Yes.
could we amend Deputy Mayor Armour's amendment to include some wording to that effect, or should we do a motion to substitute? Because whatever you
So
want, we're going to
I
do.
think if he would withdraw his motion, then we'll put another motion
Yep.
to substitute the original denial
Mhm.
to approval with additional information.
Okay, I like that. And in that case, we would do a 5-minute break. I should mention too, though, that one thing that did come out of our Community Services and Waterfront Master Plan Committee that I was chairing through Mayor Alcock at the beginning of the term, it was to look into all water access points. So I think that fits into what Director Frame is saying. And after that, it might be determined that spending money on 2 next to each other as opposed to 5 that are out where nobody has access to any water might be, so it'll be part of an overall discussion that will come back with the draft plan. So we're going to take do you want 5 or 10 minutes, Jessica? 5-minute break to do a motion to substitute, and we'll reconvene. Go, everybody. Okay. Bob's already in his car, apparently. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna get started, guys. Jessica does have the motion to substitute, so Councillor Fitzgerald and Councillor Clark, we're good. We'll pull it up on the screen. We have had the original amendment, motion to amend withdrawn, and now we're gonna submit a motion to substitute, moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Mayor Alcock. It is recommended that Corp 2026-38, recommendation number 15, Highland Park water access improvements be substituted as follows. It is recommended the staff be directed to incorporate the possibility of a water access at Highland Park into the Parks and Trails Master Plan project currently in progress. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, I will call the motion to substitute. All those in favor? Okay, now I will call the main motion as substituted. All those in favor? And that carries and ends this. I just want to make one personal note, because this is the very last meeting for my friend Julia McKenzie. And I just wanted to say, as the chair of Finance and Corporate Services, the amount of benefits I've gotten from the 4 years of working with you, with my original co-chair, Councillor Clark, co-chair Renwick right now, it was almost like the learning curve of snowboarding, where it really hurts at first, and you don't know what you're doing, and your wrists and your butt and everything else is really sore. But I will say when you get it, you get it, and being able to, it'll be weird not looking over to see you answering the questions. The knowledge, the experience, and what I've learned is immeasurable, and I just want to thank you for everything you've done for Helena and I as part of our committee. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And with that, I think I'm passing the chair back to Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Councillor Morrison. And so nice to hear those comments again about Director McKenzie. So I have one motion. It has been moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Renwick. It is recommended that we do now adjourn at 12:39 p.m. All those in favor? And that carries. I didn't even need to look. Councillor Stone was ready to jump out of the seat.